Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Just starting right into it. Okay, what up, everyone? This is Ashton Forbes, MH370x. So, obviously, you guys are jumping in early. You know that this is for this letter that showed up on YouTube. Right away, just want to say that I don't know what's going on with this letter. I don't know if it's real or if this is some psyop or if it's a hoax or something like that. I have no idea. I have listened to the letter about 10 times, probably, and it's pretty damn weird. The more I listen to it, the more I think I want to talk about it because I don't know what's going on. If this is some elaborate ruse or who's doing psychotic stuff, like coming up with these letters. The details on it are so specific that I don't think it can be AI created, although I've wondered it. They like stick to the narrative that I have thrown out there, but it's not exactly the same. Like there's a lot of pretty significant differences. And then they talk about like this Joe Rogan guy, like Randall Carlton, right? Carlson. And I had never heard of him before today, too. So it's pretty creepy. I don't know what's going on with this guy. So I think we're just going to kind of talk about the letter. Anyone who wants to jump up and be a speaker, I think that what we're going to do here is I'm going to read through the letter to everybody. It's kind of long, so just keep that in mind. And then we'll just do questions. I want to hear what people's opinions are. If they think it's like the fakest thing ever, or if they think that there's something to this. I'm curious to what you guys think in general. But either way, it's an adventure for all of us. I don't know how this is going to play out, but I'm definitely here for the journey. If it is elaborate ruse, I want to say right off the bat that I appreciate the effort that's gone into this because, boy, this is pretty dark in some aspects. So get ready just a second, guys. I'm going to pull it up, and I'm going to see if I can pull the transcript up because I'm probably just going to read it, I think, is the better way to do this.
This is a submission sent to us the 8th of January.
Okay. Hang on, folks.
8th of January of 2024. It's a
I also need, I'm looking for a co-host to jump on, somebody I know and trust. If anyone is out there listening. Okay, so let me see what I got here. Oh, crap, that was what I wanted. There's some way to do transcript. Does anyone know real quick in the chat? I'm also streaming simultaneously here. Or want to jump up and tell me how I can pull the transcript up out of YouTube? I thought this would be easy. Oh, follow along, show transcript. Okay, there we go. Okay, I've got it. Cool, here we go. Okay. Oh, is that Red Panda? Nice, thank you. I need Red Panda up here real quick. Sorry, hold on a sec, guys. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Invite to co-host. Okay, thanks Red Panda for jumping on as co-host. It'll just take him a second, then he'll be hopping up here.
Good evening, Ashton.
There you are. What's up, buddy? So, right off the bat, before I jump into this, what are your thoughts on this letter? Have you read this or listened to this yet?
Honestly, I haven't had a chance to. I saw that it was referencing Randall Carlson, and it talks about Diego Garcia a lot, and it sounded like the guy seemed scared, if it's real. Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited to hear what's going down.
Yeah, it's man, it's pretty damn weird. I'll just give you guys the forewarning. It's pretty weird. You want to pull Tupacabra up here as well, if you can make him co-host, or do I have to do that?
I'll do it. I think you have to do that, yeah.
Okay, thanks Tupa for jumping on as well. If Tupa jumps up right away, I want to hear his opinions if he's heard this at all yet. If not, I'm definitely curious to hear what you guys think about this because it's pretty weird. I listened to this thing a bunch of times, and the more I listen to it, the more I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is real or fake, but either way, I'm just going to go have some drinks because either somebody's being really parasocial and going real deep into the case and kind of presenting like very niche alternatives, and don't worry, we're going to discuss all of this. Or this is somebody who's really, I guess, just honest. I don't know. I have no idea. But I've learned that I got to be more skeptical, so we're going to look at this with a very skeptical eye. Okay. So for the people who are wondering, I'm going to put the link in the chat. You guys can listen yourself if you just don't want to listen to me speak it. I'm going to put them in the pill or whatever this is here. that there. Okay.
What is up, gentlemen?
Oh, there you are. What's up, Tupa? How's it going, man?
Hello.
Going good. What's up, Red? Yeah, a letter to Ashton Forbes. I listened to part of that clip.
Yeah, it's weird, man, and it's 10 minutes long. So this is gonna be a minute, but guys, it's gonna be worth it because this is like, I don't know, real deep role play or like just some kind of super creepy stuff going on in terms of this might be a real conspiracy because I think that you guys are gonna hear some stuff that you agree with, and maybe some stuff you don't agree with, stuff that's related to the case that we've been talking about, like some very specific stuff. I'm pretty sure none of the other MH370 investigators ever got any letters like this. So I'm gonna be pretty sure on that one. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to just read off the transcript as it goes here. Do my best, so don't hate on me. Otherwise, you guys can check it out yourself. You can see it in the pill, and you can also see it in the chat. Okay, this is a submission sent to us on the 8th of January, 2024. It's a letter to an Ashton Forbes telling the story of what happened to Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 that disappeared in 2014, and as always, don't always trust what you read on the news, your own capability to see what the world really is here. We go where I work or have worked, military base in the Maldives, and I know exactly what happened to Malaysian Airlines MH370. This is also an open letter to Ashton Forbes. You are not wrong in what you do. Let me see if I can just scroll down. There we go. Okay. You are not wrong in what you do. Is much bigger than what you can even imagine. Don't stop what you're doing. I won't tell anything about myself more than what I currently or in the past have spent time in a military base in the Maldives, and I have done this type of work since I joined the military when I was young, and that was many decades ago. Still in the game, but the years are starting to get to me as I write this, because I want the world to know that most of the trouble on the earth are created by politicians, for reasons of politicians of the United States, or at least a covert elite administration of elites of the United States that has at will complete control. And this, guys, I'm struggling. The problem with this transcript is hold on, let me see if I can pop it out. It's like missing words, so this is really tough. Okay, anyway. For political reasons, the United States, or at least a covert administrative elite of the United States, will have complete control, and this has been true since the 1960s. MH370 arrived at our base by our hand at 1856 UTC after we picked it up midair outside the great island of Nicobar. Yeah, I'm just going to play this. It's too hard to read, guys. Hold on a second. I'm going to switch it over here.
Or at least a covert administrative elite of the U.S. has, at will, complete control, and this has been true since the 60s. Flight MH370 arrived at our base, by our hand, at 1856 UTC after we picked it up, mid-air, outside the island of Great Nicobar. Just one of many, many things we do. We can pick up anything, anywhere, and deliver it in an instant, like a magic FedEx. Some facts about why it happened. MH370 had defectors on board. They were running to China with American technology. They are Chinese by blood and had gotten themselves into a situation with the Chinese regime who got them to choose to defect. The whole play, everything, and I mean everything about it, was a political play to show the Chinese who's their daddy. That's us. Some facts about how it happened. All passengers are dead, all but the handful of deflectors. The plane did not crash. The plane was on fire, we know because we started it. The plane was picked up by us, on fire, mid-air, right in front of the Chinese. The Chinese regime knows exactly what happened, and that was the whole point of the operation. Okay, this is what I want to share with you. As I said, I have been doing this for a long time. I know the technology and have been a part of hundreds of operations. So let's start with the tech. The foundation is not superconductivity. Superconductivity is a product of the technology. We have had this since the 1960s, and from that first day we have used it to make sure that no one else can have it. The big breakthrough to apply the tech as we do today came in the beginning of the 2000s with quantum computers, and by this, the paradigm for AI technology. What we had to do programmatically before, we now can do with something akin to machine intuition. This lets us operate in fast-moving environments where event-based logic in linear programming was very limited. As I said, what you have found is not the technology itself, it's just one of many derivatives of the technology. I encourage you to keep on with what you are doing, but you should also be aware that there is a deeper layer that you could focus on instead of the Miami aliens that I see you have been posting about. I will give you some pointers for this at the end of this letter. The products or application you are now working on is correctly based on superconductivity. The number of orbs you've been speculating about is correct. The fourth orb decides where the object ends up. The
Okay. Is that coming through okay?
Yeah, it was coming through good.
Okay, so maybe I'll just cut off there because this is like 10 minutes long. So I just want to start with like the first part here, which is already kind of creepy, and just want to hear some of your guys' opinions on it. So, like, this is an AI voice, right? But the AI voice is like, I don't know, doesn't it seem kind of weird, like really advanced the way that the AI voice is saying all the words? And the other thing I want to ask you guys as well is just from noticing it. So they're bringing up the whole the Chinese defector scenario, right? From the MH370x case, we've pretty much brought up this idea, if you guys have listened to like my podcast, that it was like a rescue event, right? But they're talking about like this espionage scenario in here. So right off the bat, like Red Panda or Tupo, like what are your guys' thoughts? And if anyone wants to jump up and we can have some other people who want to give their opinions, just feel free to request and we'll get you guys up there. I want to hear so far, based on what we've already had out here, about this Chinese defector scenario that was out there, as well as having this technology, and that superconductivity is a byproduct of the technology, and that it can also lead to this technology that we've had, since the 60s, which is like breakaway civilization, and that quantum computers started in the early 2000s, which pretty much allowed us to create weapons and technology that before was limited by man, but now with quantum computing, we can kind of bypass that somehow, is how I interpret it. What's up, guys? What do you guys think?
I think the defector story is interesting. If the videos are real, right? If we're looking at what they depict, then the government was looking at that plane for a reason. The idea that they started the fire makes a lot of sense. Because they were already watching it. The idea that it was a display of technology for another government, like the Chinese were watching it, it's really intriguing, right? But it kind of validates a lot of the weirdness that's kind of going on about the case and the mystery surrounding it still. So I think it's a really compelling. And as far as the AI voice goes, it's gotten really far, man, and it advances really quickly. So they're sounding more and more real. More and more inflections are put in, and you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I want people who are listening to listen to some of the inflections. It's really weird, some of these inflections. Like, you don't probably catch it the first time, but you're like, isn't an AI supposed to just be like neutral and monotone? But there's like a part, especially where like almost like it gets angry. But I know we're definitely listening to an AI voice, so either way, I'm looking at this on multiple levels, and it's creeping me out. What about you, Red Panda? Any thoughts?
I've always gotten hung up on how it seemed like the U.S. and China were in kind of a standoff about this case, and I don't know. I think I want to hear more about it.
Yeah, Logan, what do you think, buddy?
Yeah, man, about that the AI voice, like no, I'm not that impressed by it at all. Actually, I was gonna ask if you made that or if you were given that, but no. I think it definitely can get better than that. Just from like your everyday household user could make a better one. So it's just okay.
Yeah, okay.
Logan does know about AI voices.
Yeah, so I did not make this, guys, just for the record. I wish I had been this creative to come up with something like this. This is not an inside joke or anything like that. It's just creepy. So, the scenarios are either this is some kind of person trying to send us a real message, or this is some kind of really elaborate parasocial hoax or prank, I guess you could call it. Maybe it's similar to the WinRAR situation. But the thing is here so far, it's like this letter isn't somebody trying to get me to buy some files with a password on it, right? Like this letter is like a letter of encouragement, right? So the person that would have sent this, they're doing it, if it is a hoax, they're doing it out of their good of their heart, I think, and not necessarily to, attack me. It doesn't feel that way when I listen to this at all, right? Like they're talking about, you've been figuring it out. Here's the secret of what really happened. You're close. Anyone else have any quick thoughts before we play some more? Because it gets darker into this Chinese scenario.
It's like Deep Throat.
Yeah.
I've got something really quickly.
Go for it.
Yeah, Ashton. I just had a couple questions. Like, have you been in contact with Randall Carlson since the mention of like the Gray Man? My second point was about the image from the letter. It looks like somebody in a military uniform, like sitting on a beach in a base. Like, do you think that that's like an actual image from Diego Garcia, or like an AI generated image like the voice?
Yeah, definitely a AI generated image, I would say. I didn't even really pay too much attention to it. So that could lead to the idea that it's definitely a hoax. It could just be like, and I also don't understand, like, is there 3 parties involved here? Like in the beginning, there's this paragraph about that I read out, but it doesn't do it justice because with different voice, that this was like submission that was received, but this is like a 3-day-old account. Like the whole thing is weird, right? It's like a joke within a joke.
Very.
And I'd never heard of Randall Carlson, right? Is that right? Yeah, I've never heard of him before today. So
Yeah,
people right away figured out he was the
check
guy.
out his podcast, man.
Yeah, people right away are figuring out he's the guy. So I'm like, is this some kind of inside joke to like get me to look at this certain kind of science? Because if not, like, I'm not understanding what the joke is in this scenario here. Like, it's pretty weird.
It's just so similar, like the technology he talks about, and then talking about Diego mixed with what you have discovered, and then the letter pointing out all these different things. It all tracks and feels right. I don't see it as like a hoax. I think it could be legitimate.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. And yeah, that's what kind of freaked me out when he started talking about them testing in the Maldives. That's when I went, wait, what? Like this, he's talking about the technology we're talking about. That clip that I posted afterwards, I mean, this is exactly what they're talking about. They're talking about this kind of technology, how you could change this and it can blow up the whole planet. So let's play a couple more minutes of it here. So when we left off in this, we were like 4 minutes in. It's like 10 minutes long. And he had said that, oh, you're correct about the 4th orb. And the espionage scenario is supposedly the scenario they claim happens to this plane, and that we knew that it was going to happen the entire time, and we let it happen. So here we go.
Technology is based on structures, simple and beautiful structures that lets us use the unlimited power that is everywhere and step outside what I would like to describe as perceived reality. The structure that is used for what you are looking at is a metastructure that creates a low complexity and relative low energy phase transition. The beauty of this technology lies in its elegance and simplicity. The structures are inherently stable and self-regulating, and the earlier challenges to conduct operations were 100% based on the limits of man. With the same technology, just a slightly altered monostructure gives us an infinite power generator that without maintenance can run forever. Combine structures to a meta-product again, and you have the propulsion for a transmedium object moving faster than light. It's the definition of magic. There are endless applications, and the truth is that it would change the world in an instant. But that won't happen. I bet yourself, or at least most of your audience, have heard a version of the story that the aliens are here and they want to bless us with new, clean, and revolutionary technology, but we are a too young and rowdy civilization and would not be able to be responsible enough with the gifts from them. That's probably made up, but that is at the same time completely true. It's just not aliens saying this. It's us again. The technology is infinite in its power, and if 2 rivaling parties had access to it, this world wouldn't last a day. The same technology, with a combination of monostructures, makes a terrifying weapon that turns any matter into dust, and that dust turns into air. It does not matter if the object is a small bird or an aircraft carrier. It cannot be stopped. It does not miss. And when the object has been hit, the phasing cannot be stopped. Okay, so back to MH370.
Okay, so we're talking about some technology that's like the same kind of technology that we've been talking about with MH370 here. Like the thing that I bring up on every single podcast is this idea that you can use this technology to create a weapon that can destroy potentially the entire planet, right? And the other thing too, especially to Macabre, I want to get your opinion on this because, I know where your enthusiasm lies in general, is that they say that, okay, well, this isn't aliens, this is potentially our technology that's out there. Do you think this could be our technology, or are you more on the side of thinking that this is non-human intelligence out there? Curious if what you think in terms of where we potentially advanced by ourselves, or if you think we had help.
I think that's a good question. I would say it's us. That the gap, the deficit between like the 1940s and now in terms of the natural progression we should have had versus what we've been presented with as far as scientific advancements go is really, it's large, right? It's cavernous. It's the Grand Canyon. There's too big of a gap between what we should know and what we do know, what we should have and what we do have. I think that, the secrecy, right, about our advancements since World War II era would imply that the effects of the technology is extreme and can do extreme things and has extreme consequences, even more so than the atomic weapon program, which is why they carried over the same secrecy into it. So here we are, 2023, right? 2014 when this incident happened. And the question is, could we manipulate matter, time, gravity, space by that? Yeah, you had Ben Rich talking about this, right? In the 90s or something like, yes, right? I think so. Now, is that to say that in the 40s we didn't get tipped off, or even earlier, right? What caused the boom, the technological boom? What caused and what influenced these advancements? Could that be alien? Could it be an alien influence? I mean, look at Jack Parsons, right? He did these rituals to try to derive these answers, right? That's a human reaching up and out, as opposed to an alien reaching down and saying, "Here's a weapon, here's a tool," right? So maybe everything's on the table, but when I look at this case, I think that this could easily be man-made if you take the route that there's been a diversion, another branching off, if you will, of science after World War II. And this is what Weinstein talks about as well, and Puthoff and Jesse Michaels. So.
And what about the part 2 where it says that like there's narrative out there? I almost equate it to the alien invasion narrative that's out there, but this idea that we can't let the technology out into the open because like the aliens will wipe us out or whatever, and instead it's like, no, we will just wipe ourselves out if any two rivaling factions were to get this. We're afraid that we'll just destroy ourselves. Any thoughts on all that? It's kind of the extreme of like the nuclear weapons analogy, kind of, right?
Very, very much. I mean, I tend to think that instead of a physical, doomsday, that this could bring a cultural.
If I could jump.
Chris, please do. I don't know if you can raise your hand or not. You might be on a PC, but glad to have you here.
Feel free to jump in, and then we'll get to I don't know how to say your name. It's a French name, Taisnou. Anyway, Chris, go ahead.
Hey, yeah, I know. This is really fun. This 10-minute video. I just think that there's some red flags that are going off for me. One, about the no maintenance thing with this device that produces unlimited energy. His quote about turning this thing to dust, any object to dust, then to dust to air. I just feel like everything he's saying was taken from you, Ashton. I feel like he listened to everything you've said. I've listened to so much of what you said, and I feel like I could have. There's nothing new that he said that is truly like groundbreaking new or a new piece of a puzzle to. And also the whole thing about quantum computers in the early 2000s. I've read a lot about the problems of creating quantum computers. There is noise issues. There are problems that quantum computers still aren't as good as traditional supercomputers, like for even regular tasks that you wouldn't think, like, wait, can a quantum computer do that? It's like, actually, it can't yet as fast as a regular one because it's just not there yet. So it's like early 2000s, they already had this tech. I just, a lot of red flags are going off for me.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go for it.
This is Taco Loco.
Got you.
CEO on YouTube. I've been with the MFMP for a while. I got there on my own and started following it because I'd figured this stuff out on my own. I built something very similar to what this guy Malcolm, what's his name, that they mentioned in that video.
Yeah, the lightning weapon or something that people have been pinging.
Yeah, no, it's Thunderbolt. Yeah, it's no big. I built that when I was a kid, before I went into the nuclear power program. Anyway, I understand. I mean, the whole time you guys have been talking about this tech, Bob's been saying it too. It can crack the world in half. I mean, there's no freaking question about it, and it is a lot to get. But the thing is, it's ancient, and we can go. You have to watch a lot of the videos to see it. But I got no doubt about this tech. I got no doubt about what this guy's saying. And also, it didn't even really need to have AI to do some of this. You can do this analog. I won't bore you with describing how to do it. But certainly AI would help. And when he was talking about the AI being intuitive, I get it. So.
Okay, so yeah, sorry, I'm going to stop you just there because I want to keep this thing going. Mitagin, what are your thoughts? And I'm going to go back to the recording here. Mitagin?
Hey Ashton, what's up? I'm gonna have to agree with Chris. I would say the best thing about the video is the storytelling. It's extremely good. I was very entertained with it. It was like better than a movie. But yeah, I do think that it's not exposing anything new. At least not anything new in terms of things that you could speculate yourself. I think a lot of the things that it presented you have talked about or at least speculated. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it. And guys, just as a quick ground rules, let's just try to keep the comments short. I want to keep things on topic here so we can get through the entire thing here, and then we'll have more open discussion near the end as well. Rugburn, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Ashton, just a big fan. I also was really entertained by it. The one thing I wanted to bring up is my take on when he says, it's not aliens, it's us. I heard that as it's maybe us either from another realm or dimension or future saying, hey, you're not ready for this. Like we're interacting with ourselves in some way.
Yeah, no, good thoughts, man. I think all those are really good thoughts in general. It's like, could this be made up? I think AI has achieved that point, but even if it's all made out of AI, it's pretty damn weird to me. Like Mitagin said, I think that there's some aspects to it where just from a storytelling perspective, it's pretty elaborate. It seems like somebody put a lot of effort into this, no matter how you look at it. Even if you fed all the AI, all my pieces, I don't think you could come up with this, right? You need some pretty strong prompts. I also think I agree when you guys say pretty much everything it's saying is stuff that we've already discussed so far, for the most part at least. The big shift is this idea on the espionage scenario, where I would have said before it was 1%. And now I'm looking at it and this person's saying, well, that's exactly what happened. This was all a big plan, and that we can pretty much just do anything. Now, from the scientific perspective, skeptics in terms of is this possible? The thing about it, the way I'd play devil's advocate is if there is free energy, unlimited energy, then everything we said there is by default possible, including teleportation, which is what we're kind of advocating here for. We pretty much need unlimited energy to be real. It's not a situation where you get to pick and choose which things you want to be real. It's like once you've unlocked the power of quantum mechanics on the macro scale level, like they say there, it's pretty much magic. So any other last comments before we listen to the rest of this here, I think? Oh, Dewar, let's get you up there.
You can put Rugberg down. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rugberg. Appreciate you, man. We'll get some other people up too when we go through the next part. Mitagin, you want to say anything before we get? I don't know if Dewar wanted to say anything. Either.
Yeah. I have to go. I do have to go, and thank you for this. I just want to say that pay attention to things that are sent to you in terms of storytelling. Storytelling goes a long way, and this one is definitely one of those where storytelling and it's like the intention of where the whole intention behind the story of this was all planned. We planned this, and it's very intentionally charged. So bye bye.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Yeah, no, it is. People are like, oh, well, this is another psyop. Okay, well, what's the point so far, right? The point is what, to encourage us to keep going. Usually if you're a debunker, you want people to make it go away. You don't really want to revive it, which is what this story does. And I do want to repeat that I have nothing to do with this story other than receiving it, which is why I'm pretty creeped out. That's why I was drinking earlier tonight, because I was thinking, no matter which way this goes, this is either the creepiest thing ever, most parasocial thing ever, or this is real, whatever, or somewhere in between. Either way, yeah. Resolution.
Cheers, brother.
Booze, right? Okay, here we go. We're gonna listen to the rest.
70. We knew about the deflectors as soon as they made their decision. Well before that, but then they weren't deflectors. Anyway, we knew when, how, and why back in December, and as we do, we made it into politics. We let them go. We took them back and sent the Chinese a clear message of who is in control. And we did this with a brilliantly produced show that is fit for a Hollywood production. Any good movie has fire, desperation, regret, and drama. And every movie villain should see their plan fall apart. And in really good movies, just when the villain has accepted that the plan has failed, the heroes of the movie steps in and makes it worse. This is what happened. As soon as we knew what plane was the last leg of their journey, we planned and delivered, so the plane was loaded up with lithium-ion batteries, built by us for this occasion. Lithium-ion batteries cannot be put out, has a predictable burn rate, and we made sure that the volume was just right for a long burn that would allow for a full-length show. The Chinese were following the plane since it was on the tarmac and got to see their most close-to-success operation go up in flames. And just as all hope was lost, we made it worse. Right in front of their eyes, 2 hours and 13 minutes in, they saw the plane get phased out of there by the same technology they were trying to get access to. And 5 days later, the Chinese officially made a gesture of submissiveness by publishing a frame from the satellite of the phase moment via the State Administration for Science. The publishing was talked about in American newspapers as a possible debris field. But when you know what you are looking at, it's clear what the frame shows. The aftermath. During the 5 days after the show, the Chinese found out about the batteries, that we both made and placed them on the plane. They accepted that we have been playing with them the whole time and at the same time could accept that the people they had convinced to deflect did what they wanted. It was us that stopped them. The deflectors had a good corrective experience when it comes to staying loyal and were back on the job as usual, but with a new understanding both of their importance and the consequences of their actions. What was nothing more than another Friday at the office for the administrative elite, 200 people had the most confusing death experience you could imagine. 1,500 people lived a tragedy, losing family members in a mystery, and 10,000s spent months searching and millions speculating for years. Then in 2014, military footage of the event got published on YouTube. Not our problem. The person responsible for the leak was identified and taken care of. Not by us, not our problem. Then came you. Hi, Ashton. Impressive. This is what I want to leave you with. There was a guest on the Joe Rogan podcast that was talking about sacred geometry and some new technology his friends had discovered on some island somewhere. He did record another episode, but it never been published. Doesn't the wording sacred geometry remind you of something? If you choose to spend time on this, which I think you should instead of mall aliens, keep in mind that your case is one product of the technology. What happens on the other island, you will understand this if you pursue it, is another more rudimentary product. What if those in combination could lead you on the right path to the actual technology? The gray-bearded man is the key, and he probably has no idea that he is. Finally, I want to say this. How do you defeat someone who can turn skyscrapers to dust, completely erase whole neighborhoods in an afternoon, and steal a burning Boeing 777 midair? Someone who, when needed, has the complete control of all media and crafts the perception of events, and has most of humanity eating from its hands. After almost a full life in their service, I think I know the answer. You talk about them, and you don't stop talking.
This is a submission sent to us the 8th of January of 2024. It's a letter to an Ashton Forbes.
So that was the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. What are your guys' immediate thoughts? Actually, you know what? Let me jump through some things right there. Okay, I'm going to do a quick summary and then you guys jump on in. So, first of all, the fire scenario. They elaborate on the scenario that we've put forth and they add an angle to it where they basically say, no, we put the batteries on there, which I've never speculated. They say that they increased the length of the battery burn so that the plane would last. A lot of the narratives out there said that the plane wouldn't last, but we've speculated that the batteries are being like put out actively, and that we found out that the halon fire extinguishing gas can last for 3 hours. They mentioned the Chinese hack pretty much, and the whole angle of the Chinese situation with the pictures, saying that they knew about it and that they were taking that picture and that was espionage, like we speculated. So that is something that's very specific to somebody who would have had to have been following this case, right? And then they kind of allude to the same idea of like the Chinese knowing about it here, and this is some kind of big power play, right? Where we're just showing them how much power we have. And that's all a big Hollywood production that they knew about in December, which is something I've never mentioned. I didn't even research that though, that we knew about this espionage scenario since December. That's something completely new and original. Then as well, the time. So they mentioned that it happened and the time that they picked up the plane. They say that the plane disappeared 2 hours and 13 minutes after it took off. Well, it took off, it depends on what you go by. So if you go by the time it pulled back from the gate, that was 1630 UTC. That would be the common time that most people would know. Time it actually took off from the runway was 1642 UTC. So if you use 1630 UTC and you add 2 hours and 13 minutes, which is what they said it took when they intercepted it, then that's 1843 UTC. Why is that weird? Because the time that I've presented out there is 1840 UTC. But if this situation is true, then this time, 1843 UTC, is the time that the Chinese Mayday call was received, 2:43 a.m., which when you convert that from Malaysian time, or even Thailand time, I believe, that becomes 1843 UTC, which is within 3 minutes of the time that we've said these videos are happening. So that's a really weird coincidence that they mention on that front. And then they talk about this Joe Rogan situation. Says that look for this guy in the gray beard that was on Joe Rogan. People right away mentioned that this guy, Randall Carlson, had like his second appearance was canceled under mysterious circumstances. And then that was apparently talked about, I think, on the Concrete podcast. And they said to look for this guy. I'd never heard of him before today. And then we found that clip kind of corroborating that this idea that there's a base in the Maldives, which now becomes a very weird kind of thing. Like, how are they and why are they connecting it to that guy out there? And then they also mentioned that they think that the people on board are dead, which is not something that I've really promoted. I've kind of said that I think they could survive. But the thing that's weird that people have mentioned is like, well, how would they know? How would they be able to keep just the engineers alive? And I'm sure they're talking about the Freescale engineers. So when they're talking about these defectors, and deflectors, by the way, means defectors. Like, I think this is an error in the way that the AI was run. But it's something to look into. Is like, what exactly AI program did they use for this? And was it reading off a piece of paper, or like, how was it getting words wrong? Because when I read the transcript, sometimes it says defectors and sometimes it says deflectors, even in the transcript. So I don't really understand it. But there was 8 of them were Chinese and 12 of them were Malaysian, if you believe the reporting. And we've always speculated that this is way too many people, right? Like, why would they all be on the same plane? They also speculate that we intercepted them from their original location. So if we can look in and figure out where these guys connecting through KL, which is pretty likely because KL is a huge airport, especially down there in Southeast Asia, it'd be interesting to see where they all came from. Like, did they all come from the same place, or did they like connect there and then they flew from there to Beijing? And therefore, that's like the perfect location to intercept them on an espionage scenario. So there's parts of this that like are completely original, which is interesting, but very little. You're right. Most of it is stuff that I've speculated on there already. And then at the end, this is like your creepiest political statement ever out there, which is like, how do you defeat somebody who can turn skyscrapers to dust and erase whole neighborhoods in an afternoon and steal a Boeing 777 midair? You know, someone who has complete control of the media and crafts the perception of events. It's like, okay, you know, this is, I think you guys can think of a lot of scenarios like this where this stuff's happened. So what are your guys' thoughts on the scenario here? Let's start with, I didn't see who was up first. We'll start with Hey Ocean. Hey, how's it going?
Hey Ashton, I'm loving your space here. I just wanted to chime in and say I'm actually kind of loving how this letter is anonymous. I think that's something that can really like bring everybody together. We're gonna just like, for me anyways, I'm gonna take it for what it is. It's an anonymous letter online. I'm gonna just compare it to the rest of the stuff I know, right? But I kind of like that because I feel like there's less of a bias if it's an anonymous letter. But that's all I had to say. I'd like to figure out who it is, but this is wild.
Yeah, the sacred geometry stuff too. I'm curious if people have stuff about that. Like it's a, what do you think about when you think about sacred geometry? There's two things, I guess. First is toroids, which is like what everybody's been talking about. Toroids are so hot right now, donut shapes. And that I feel like from an electrical engineering perspective, like a toroid like kind of just feels like the right kind of shape if you want to be able to focus energy on a single spot and do some of those things that seem like they're impossible. Let's go to Sarah real quick, and then we'll go to Dewar.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's pretty shocking, if this is real, if it's a hoax. It's a good one. But my thought process is when we go to the passengers on the plane, there's that gentleman who, took the picture, stuck his phone up his butt, posted it on 4chan, and that wasn't mentioned in the story. However, I think that happened right after the plane went missing. So my thought process goes to, what if the passengers all did survive and then they unfortunately maybe eliminated the other ones, or maybe they all did survive and they actually gave them jobs there, like, the previous pictures have shown. I don't know. This is just like the rabbit hole is just deeper.
Yeah, the thing about the passengers is really bizarre because I'm trying to determine if they really mean that like they didn't survive the event, or if they're trying to imply that they just didn't make it off the island, or maybe there's, this is also just maybe disinformation with inside disinformation, where it's a situation where, in a couple different aspects, it could be like, oh, if this was real, maybe it's a situation where they're trying to get me to think about it from a different perspective that's not real, or that certain elements, if it is real, maybe are just kind of modified for the protection of the person who's posting it. Or it's just maybe they messed up and it's just a hoax and some aspects of it just don't line up. There's a lot of different ways. This is just bizarre, like really bizarre. Like this is the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me probably in my life. But I'm glad I'm here with all of you guys to talk about it because
we're glad we're here with you, Ashton.
Yeah.
This is wild. And you've been literally like sharing this experience and this journey with us, and we are here for it. Like this has been really great. There are a lot of other researchers and apparent insiders who really hoard this information. They've never hosted spaces or live streamed their ups and their downs, and so I really want to say I appreciate that, man. But I had a space scheduled with the QAnon shaman
go for it.
For 6, so I'm gonna have to go do that. If your space is still going when I'm done, I'm gonna be right back in here. And if your space ends a little early, come on into mine. We'd love to have you in there.
We'll do.
Also, I'm co-hosting that, so I got to go too. But hell yeah, bro. Whatever happens first.
We say hello.
Will do. Have a good one, everyone.
Love you, Ashton.
Peace, guys. Hey, Ocean, do you want to become a co-host?
Yeah, I got you.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to Keen. Do you have any questions or do you have thoughts on general? What do you think? What do you think about that?
Yeah. First of all, I thought it was 100% on point. I believed every word he said. It was just exactly the story that I had in my mind. That is what went on. So I believed it, and I also believed it because the people that I know in the military, when I used to say, man, I'm worried about this or I'm worried about that, they would say, and these are people that have the top clearances, they would say, don't worry, we have stuff that you can't even imagine. And they said that every time I would say I'm worried over the past 10 years, they'd say, we have stuff that you.
I'm sorry, that was my mistake. I'm trying to accept requests here.
Go ahead, Keen. Unmute yourself. Sorry.
Okay. Well, basically, I said that I have,
Yeah, we heard the part about your friends that they've been saying that
they've been saying not to
Go
worry about Afghanistan, not to worry about this or that because we have technology that you can't even wrap your mind around. So when he was talking about it, I'm like, that fits in with what my beliefs are. I had some points. The deflectors and defectors. I think that he was saying what he was saying in there was on purpose. The deflectors. If you look up the word deflector or deflecting, it's disruptors. So I think he was using those words on purpose, purposefully. The other thing that I found pretty interesting is that when he said this technology, can you imagine just disappearing or burning in one moment? I kept seeing the Hawaii fires. I was like, is he alluding to that technology being used in Hawaii? That was another interesting point. And the other thing I found interesting, I kind of felt like the graybeard dude, that Randall Carlson. To me, the letter went so much with what he said on the Joe Rogan. Because I watched the Joe Rogan clip, I thought, is that graybeard guy? Is that who wrote the letter? So I don't know, but those were my thoughts.
Yeah, I think those are all really interesting thoughts. Especially the part about like, is what they're saying really specific? Is it accurate? Like I don't know. I think it feels like the deflector thing is some kind of AI issue, but I don't know how the AI inputs and stuff that work. If it was a transcript that it was reading off of or what. I'd be very curious to see that side of it. But the side that you mentioned in terms of the weapons, like they say actually like they disappearing a skyscraper, turning it to dust and then turning it to oxygen. I can definitely see some parallels there to 9/11. And I think that there are people that, this makes me wonder, I don't know if this makes me think it's more fake or more real, but I think that you could argue that from destroying the city or neighborhood, that could be an allusion as well to the Maui fires. So I don't know. It's pretty bizarre to add that stuff. But it was like, if so, it wasn't like very direct, right? It was kind of just like an indirect mention. So
That made it even more real for me, because if
Mhm.
you think about how they talk to each other, they always
Mhm.
give you like percent, maybe 70%. When they're telling you things, you listen to it like 70/30. 70 of it is good stuff, and then they'll use 10% of it outrageous, that it's to deflect it's to deflect the truth. But what they're telling you is true. Um, and the other thing that it led to was the gray beard thing. He was talking about sacred geometry, and I think he kind of like wanted you to set your telemetry over to, hey, there is this technology out there, and this is how you can get to it. But I have a feeling that this won't be his only letter to you. I think if you take advantage of this and promote it correctly, that there'll be other people, and this won't be the only letter. I think there'll be other letters. I sure hope so. It's been
I think I hope so, just
I
from an
love.
entertainment standpoint. Go ahead, Hey, Ocean.
No, I was just gonna say I agree. I love that. I think Dar was next. Is that how I say that? Darwar.
Yeah, Dewar. Is that how we say your name,
Oh,
by the way?
yep. Here I am. Yeah, it's Dwar. Hey, Ashton. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going,
Hey,
Dewar?
everybody. Good, good, good. Yeah, I thought I'd just leave you guys with kind of my 2 cents. When you first posted it earlier today, and I kind of heard through it was really interesting, very, very well put together, and I'll reserve judgment till I guess we'll probably obviously see at least one or two more follow-up letters, so I'll probably reserve judgment until then. But two things stood out to me. Like it was really interesting. Listen, obviously very dramatic, and very well put together. So the two things that stood out to me were they definitely agreed with you on everything, but they're like the two kind of things that were a little bit critical on were the most telling in terms of whether we might want to believe this or not. One thing I noticed was like they were mentioning a lot about so I tuned into your live stream yesterday, and I think there was a moment somewhere in the live stream where we were discussing like toroids and interesting shapes and all of this from the
I
hard
was gonna
science
say.
that we usually talk about on the live streams, and you were mentioning that
Sacred
as you
geometry,
sometimes
silly.
do, right? Like just to keep esoteric topics a little bit further removed from like the general science discussion. You said we don't let's just not discuss in terms like with terms like sacred geometry, or sometimes you'll say stuff about remote viewing just to kind of separate out like the science from the more difficult concepts to grasp. And so I think maybe somebody might have heard that, they might have got offended or something, as sometimes happens, right, when we kind of talk about those things. So they might have got a little bit offended, or maybe at least that's the sense I was getting. Plus, with all the stuff that we've been discussing about the Miami alien thing, it's kind of a little bit funny, a little bit serious. So maybe just in response to that, somebody was a little bit instigated, and they kind of put together a little bit of a story, put it into had AI maybe build out a letter, and then kind of had AI do a voiceover, something like that, because it does line up a lot with the stuff we've been discussing. So it could be something that simple. Like I said, going to reserve judgment until we obviously see maybe more of a response. But yeah, just thought I'd leave my 2 cents there. I thought there was a little bit of an interesting kind of connection there when you mentioned that maybe some people got offended, and maybe that's what led to something like this.
It does.
I think it'd be good to do like a known information versus new information, like two lists side by side to see like what is different and what is the same, maybe.
That's an interesting thought. Depends on we'll see how serious this gets. I mean, we got people out here saying there's going to be several more letters for sure. Imagine if you're a hoaxer and they're like, guys, I need at least 2 more letters from you now. I mean, I don't know. 1 letter already was pretty damn weird for me, guys. I don't know if I want 2 more. But yeah, I agree, Dewar, definitely with this idea that this is some kind of personal thing, right? It feels very personal. Like someone there's 2 angles to it, I think. The one that you mentioned, it seems most likely that someone was watching, especially yesterday when I mentioned, I wasn't too harsh on it, but I said, just like you said, you did a good characterization, which I said, let's just not call it sacred geometry, right? But if you really think about it, I think, when you're talking about like toroids and like some of these shapes, like the distinguish between the esoteric terminology and the scientific terminology becomes pretty blurred there. But that definitely seems like there's some kind of personal aspect, but you could also take it like, okay, if it's real, then they could also be offended because like, we're the case, like you guys have followed along. And that's why I want to talk to people who've like, been following along the whole time, right? And be like, okay, is this somebody who's like been in the whole time and they just got really offended because of this one angle and like this is their pet story, or is this something that's like more sinister? It doesn't really like feel sinister to me when I listen to this. Like it just feels like we're trying to give you a push in the right direction. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be either. Absolutely.
Okay, let's jump over to I think I'll go to Sarah first, and then we'll go to Ranjiv. And then we'll go to A.
Also, I can't get Glenn up here. I keep trying to accept, and it's not working. So you might need to reset, buddy. But yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hey, Ash. Thank you. I'm sorry. I don't mean to butt in. I had my hand raised. I didn't know how to do this. The whole saving that's the thing that's been bothering me the whole time. Your narrative about they're saving the people. I did not see that as being a valid argument. And just yesterday or this morning, I don't remember which, I commented saying, dude, they were defecting. Maybe they had something with them. And that if they had this technology going to China, I absolutely can see them wiping out a plane and everybody on it just to do it. And honestly, I think that if they survived, the passengers were offed, and if the guy's right that the engineers were saved, it was just the passengers were offed. They don't care about that. Yeah. They cared about the technology. That's the crux.
Yeah, the scary part about that is like that's exactly the opposite of what I've been saying, right? So
it's terrifying.
They're presenting this scenario that's the opposite. I've been having this optimistic approach, and they're going, no, they were definitely killed. So if there's an angle where this person was upset at something I said, that could be it. They could say like, oh no, but that just doesn't seem like enough motivation to go through all this effort to come up with stories.
I think that's weird. If this technology is really what it is, right, then it is absolutely worth everything. They will kill for this. And that's when, like I said, when I commented earlier and it came to mind either last night or this morning, and it just blew my mind. It was like, crap, that's the reason. So
yeah, that's a scary part too. Especially because like I'm like, okay, scary. Well, it's possible. I just wasn't thinking it, but it's possible, right? And I think AA Coldwater, I was saying, we'll get to you in a second, but the point you made there in terms of collateral damage, I thought about that because Florence DeChangi, when we showed her like kind of thing that she was doing, speech thing, I think it was at like a conference. I think it was the nephew of the pilot was told that his uncle was collateral damage. And I went, wait, when I heard that on this, I was like, that's weird. That's like one thing we've only mentioned like one time ever.
Well, and it is a super dark view of the powers that be. But I hate to say it, I think it's an accurate view of the powers that be.
Yeah, it may be. Sarah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I had two. One is, you could sit down and just like do a quick list, pros and cons for if this is a hoax. And if this isn't, and maybe just at least maybe someone's pointing you in the direction of the science, and that science, I looked into it today, seemed pretty cool. I have no idea what it means. I am not educated enough to understand it, but it's pretty interesting. And maybe take that from this, and if it's a hoax and they want you to send you in the wrong direction, then fine, you spent like a couple of hours, like the last hoax. It's like, you did it, you got through it, and you moved on. And then my other thought is the general. You were having a live talk a couple of nights ago, and you were talking about a general who, yes. So, sorry, am I being too long?
No, keep going. Sorry about that.
You're fine. Keep going.
Oh yeah, sure. So the general, you had brought him up, and didn't he live, or wasn't he in that area, in the Maldives? Could that be him? Could it be this Malcolm guy and not the gray beard guy, if it is not a hoax? Anyway, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that you're dead on in terms of like, okay, how do we proceed here? I mean, I don't know about making lists and everybody wanting to break it all out. Like, I can listen to it and kind of think about it in my mind. If people want to make a list, feel free. I'm not going to be against it. We're already at the extremely parasocial stage here, no matter how we play this out. But also at the same time, if this is a real situation, then they are pointing us towards the science. So either way we look at it, the answer is going to present itself with time. No matter how we look at it, if they are gonna, I didn't even think about them sending more letters. If this is a hoax and they send more letters like this, wow, you guys they're really making my day exciting. I am definitely.
Well, we got hands up, Ashton, but
Okay,
I want to say
let's
if
go
this
for it.
is a hoax, depending on how far it gets out, like there could be repercussions. Like I just want to note that it's not okay to be pulling jokes on people. Like
I agree.
it is you handle it very well, but like this, if it is a joke, then this like isn't a very good one in my opinion. Like we're talking about families that could be getting news about their families, and that, like, I don't know, I just don't like to joke about things that have death. So I just wanted to point that out, that I hope it's
100%.
real. I'm praying that it is, and if it isn't, then I'm gonna be pretty upset at whoever is doing this. Just saying.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And yeah, I want to say that it's not okay to hoax about this kind of stuff, guys. Like if this is some sick hoax, then man, you guys, please, you have real issues you need to work through, man. This isn't as bad as trying to scam people for money, but that's like a straight up felony. This is just a situation where you're just a terrible human being. So if you are faking this for whatever reason, please let us know right away. Even do so anonymously or whatever, because it's pretty damn creepy, man. Really creepy. Ranjiv, let's go to you. You've had your hand up for a while.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, what's up, man?
All right, great. Sorry. I just wanted to. I felt pretty much the same way as Dewar. Actually, just leaving a little bit out for potential possibilities of it being true. But at the end of it, the more I think about it, I mean, if this is truly like a super tenured or long-time military official, from my experience, those people don't speak in the type of way that he was transcribing this letter here. It sounds really generally from my experience, military people speak much more matter-of-factly, definitively, without really precisely. They choose their words, their thoughts with accuracy, and I don't feel like that this letter, like, there were just too many incongruences in my opinion. Like, he's military, but he speaks in this really sort of subjective, like writing a movie script fashion, talks about movie scripts. Like, it's, they're very objective people. He's speaking in a subjective fashion. And then, beyond that, it was also like, okay, you went from quantum computing, and how it's not, whatever else. And then you make the leap to Randall Carlson with sacred geometry, and from what I know about sacred geometry, the big piece of like sacred geometry out there that shows up in ancient artifacts and structures around the world is the flower of life. And I think, what's his name, can't remember the guy's name, but he was Jesse Smollett's co-star on that one show. He was like the main character. But he speaks about this. There's a secret math that apparently he gets into this like subject of math and potential science that's so like yeah, it's interesting, but like if it had any fundamental like base in true science, today's science, like we'd be down that road, and like we're not. It's just, it seems like I don't know, there's just too many incongruencies in my opinion. I wanted to believe it. It's
That's a
hard
fair take for sure. Yep. All opinions are valid, you know.
Yeah. So, and I think that, it can be either way. Now, the thing I would say is I think we need to keep our minds open from the technological standpoint. I mean, we're sitting here, we're talking about teleporting a plane. So it's pretty hard to throw out stuff as being not there scientifically right now. Like, I think that the answer is we need to look at science a different way. If we look back at all our hard truths podcasts that we've done, I think the one thing that you'll keep seeing from all the engineers and scientists out there is that we're using the same science, but we're just looking at it differently now. Same science, but a different perspective. Let's go over to Coldwater. I know there's a lot of hands up. I'm trying to get to some more.
Yeah, I'll make this real quick. I just had a couple points. I just wanted to say, like, to Ranji, first of all, like, keep your mind open. Like, Tesla built a machine that could, like, tear buildings down with sound. I think that sacred geometry is a really important factor in all this. Like, if you watch those, like, sound vibrating plates where they put sand on them and then run sound through them, the sand forms sacred geometry. So maybe this is some kind of thing where, like, they can amplify this sound and open portals with it with enough energy or something like that. The second point I wanted to make is I don't think it's a hoax at all. I think that, if anything, the errors in it and all that kind of stuff, the deflectors and all that different stuff, I think it could have been put in there to deliberately kind of throw people off the scent of it being legitimate, like, oh, it's just a stupid AI video type of thing. I think the key to it, and he even calls the gray man the key, he says, like, oh, he's the key to all this, and he may not even know it. I think that, like, the whole point of the entire letter was to connect you with Randall Carlson, because this guy's been researching this for God knows how long and is one of the most knowledgeable people I've ever listened to. And I think if you can, you should connect with him. I think that's the entire point of all of it.
Yeah.
And other than that, I just wanted to say that, like, China just did a land grab in the Maldives. So, it also kind of goes into that, like, why are they moving into the area? What are they interested in? Obviously, everybody's kind of buying land everywhere, but it's just a really interesting thing that's going on. And I don't think it's a hoax, man. I think that I think you should watch some Randall Carlson stuff, and then you guys should do a podcast together. And with that, I'll say have a good night, and thank you so much for what you're doing and letting me talk to you tonight. So.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, I want to just say, too, like, I didn't know who Randall Carlson was before tonight. And then I'm sitting there watching him and going, okay, that's Joe Rogan, the #1 podcast ever. And that's Graham Hancock. And I've been watching his Ancient Apocalypse show and starting to kind of dig into this whole idea of, like, how far back does civilization go, right? And then in between them is the guy that this random letter person is telling me to look at, who I've never heard of before. So it's like, a lot of this stuff is just, man, weirdly specific. So, Juan, man, thanks for coming up here today, man. And just as a quick introduction to Juan is running for Congress in Texas 32nd. So if you are out in Texas, take a look at Juan and his positions out there, because I know he's a guy who's advocating for disclosure. Juan, go ahead, buddy. Welcome.
Hey, Ashton. Thanks a lot. I appreciate the intro. I was listening in here, and I watched most of the video. I haven't finished watching it, but I've got to tell you, man, this smells like a CIA operation, where I would assume would be part of the controlled disclosure process. I don't think it's a hoax. I think it's someone who has targeted the community again, understand who the influential people on here are, right? Who can get their voices heard, and have fed you possibly some real information with maybe a sprinkle of falsehoods to assist and aid in the disclosure process, because we all know that the disclosure is rolling. It's going right now. So just my 2 cents there, my thoughts.
Oh man, that's some great thoughts. And nobody had brought that up yet, but yeah, that was an aspect that I was thinking too, which is this idea of, like, what if I'm just being used and I'm just like a pawn in whatever, some kind of game behind the scenes is being played right now, because people are listening, they know I have engagement, and they know I'll put information out there. Like, I don't know, that's a weird dark alley as well. So truth is, guys, yeah, go for it. You want to respond?
Let me follow up. I did know someone else in the community who was contacted to actually be part of the controlled disclosure process, but this is a different situation here.
Yeah, and I mean, and from that perspective too, if that's the case, then it can be even just a straight up disinfo op too. So these are the parts where it's like, man, and that's why to try to figure that outside of it out. That's why I think if people are interested, we should try to figure out what kind of AI program was used for this. I mean, it seems pretty advanced. It does have inflection capability and stuff like that. And like, how do we think they recorded it? Like, did they use like a voice changer and have the AI steal the voice? Or did they like write it down in a text document and have the AI read it, right? Like, I think that kind of stuff can help us determine, what level of technological advancement do they use? Is it something right off the shelf? Or is it something that they had to, have military assets to be able to create? Some of the stuff's pretty advanced. So, Taco Loco, do you want to say something else?
Yeah, I'll be quick. I posted some videos in there with respect to the AI you were just talking about. There's a Rogan clip where this guy's talking about how AI can actually inflect, can sense emotion. So there it is, right there, and that's from a couple years ago. Number two, Bob and us just did a live stream about the flower of life, describing the surface of the ball lightning or the orb. That was on Sunday. So the sacred geometry matters. I don't really have an opinion as far as whether this is a LARP or not, but I'll tell you what, the science fits. And the final thing is, one product of this low energy nuclear reaction stuff is microscopic crenellated iron spheres, which they found all over the towers. And that's what they tried to misidentify as microthermite or whatever, and it's not. It's actually a product of it. And I've been doing this for years. You can see the videos. I posted the video where he describes it in there. If you want to sit through it, it's 2.5 hours, but it spells it out. And you're into the hard science, so there it is. So those parts fit. Now, it could still be they could be disinfoing at a lower level because there's layers of lies and lies. But I'm here to tell you, it's probably the most experienced guys on here with low energy nuclear fusion. That all checks.
Wow. Thanks, man. Yeah, thanks, Taco Loco. That's the part too that's also creepy, is that I'm being told by all the people who are experimental scientists and engineers and people who are DoD contractors and people that are working directly with the Navy, and they're saying that this science checks out, as hard as it is for us to believe. So I know there is that aspect. People go, no, we're not this advanced. This can't possibly be real. But people are going, this checks out. Like, this is just, we haven't looked at science this way. This is how we advance from what we think is our limits of our scientific capabilities to the next level, right? Do you have a follow-up, Taco Loco?
And I was in the Navy. Yeah, I was in the Navy down there, and those big weird ships with the domes on them. We used to see them, and I always had a weird feeling when I saw them, and I wondered what it was. And later on, those definitely would be what you would steer these orbs with. They probably have something else now. But, I could talk to you all day about Aegis and phased array and all that, too. Firsthand.
We were going to talk about Aegis, actually, but not tonight, I don't think.
So, yeah, but
Thank you for your service, by the way.
Yada, yada, I know, but there's just a lot more to it. And it can get deep, but I'm not going to take up your time. But
okay.
The science checks out.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Definitely appreciate that. I think the science is going to check out as well, and that's what makes this extra creepy. Mello, man, welcome up here. Did you want to have any comments or anything on what's going on? Have you been caught up?
Yes, sorry, I was trying to join the co-hosting before, but I was driving up the mountain, but now I'm back in my office here, so I can I'm close to the Wi-Fi. So yeah, fascinating. I was able to hear the whole thing though on my way home. Quite a story. Yeah, the as you pointed out, the storytelling aspect, or someone else did, was on point and quite fascinating, and all the relevant things that pertain to your particular research collaboratively and the theories you guys came up with was cool, and like hey Ocean, great to see you. I like the idea of really analyzing the similarities and the differences, the little nuances that were in there. And it's interesting that more and more the potential connection to 9/11. It's not enough that we have the most famous missing aircraft in all of history, and then the tragic consequences, of course, but also that other big event that we're familiar with. And in one of our the research rooms, our friend Moneypenny was sharing some of that stuff about the theories in terms of, I know this is a little bit beyond your main focus on this topic, but did you catch any of those theories about the potential connection between that Boeing autopilot technology, supposedly that was part of the 9/11 tragedy, as well as this whole topic that we're endlessly consumed by.
Yeah, so the autopilot thing is interesting because they do mention that everybody was killed. So if they are saying that they can't survive this event, other than maybe some certain select people somehow, maybe they're in the right spot, I don't know. Then that question, that kind of begs the question: was the plane autopiloted to its final destination? So I do wonder if there is an autopilot connection to all this, and I never ruled autopilot out. I mean, if you can teleport a plane, I'm pretty sure remote control autopilot in a commercial aircraft is certainly within the realms of possibility. Couple of the quick things I want to mention related to what Taco Loco was saying was that there's a few different, if it is fake, I think there's a few different motives for it, which is like, being offended by one of the scenarios, either maybe the sacred geometry, or you could tell they mentioned the mall aliens twice, right? The mall aliens being mentioned twice is really interesting because it makes me wonder, was this somebody who's upset that I was looking into the mall aliens? Like, did they want me to be focused on other stuff, or did they have some personal take here? Because that seemed like a really weird thing to kind of condescend over, although they are right. If this is a real message, then I apologize. I have not had my eye on the prize. I just wanted to be a little bit distracted. The lightning power thing that was by Randall Carlson's buddy, I have to look into, but he apparently works with Bob Grenier. So that's a really weird specific connection as well. We're like 3 degrees of Kevin Bacon, and these are the guys in between us and Bob. And then this idea that there's a change of matter, it's kind of describing the same thing that Bob Grenier talked about, where it was this idea that these low power nuclear reactions, and maybe not even just teleportation, we might be able to like completely deatomize the plane, like annihilation event. Like I was initially thinking that might be, but subsequently ruled that out. And I think that it was even on Tim Pool podcast, Dave Rossi was also saying that, no, we have like antimatter weapons. He said that several times, and he had never said that to me in person. That was pretty bizarre. Also, I just want to post his response. I actually messaged him about this because I thought this was super weird. And, he told me that at first he read it and he thought, oh, I thought you made that. And after he realized that I didn't make that, he's like, holy crap, that's bizarre. And that's pretty much my impression as well, is that no, I did not make this. It doesn't even make sense for me to make this. Like, it's got stuff that's not even like my theories out there included into it, but it is pretty similar. Okay, next thing, let's go to Hermes real quick, and then we'll go back up to Hey Ocean, and then we'll get to Dwar again.
Oh, hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, what's up, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, Ash? Mello, Hey Ocean. Yeah, so you guys have been mentioning the sacred geometry stuff for a while, and I've just kind of been sitting back waiting till someone spoke up about it. But in real electronic theory and just radar transmission, any type of transmission reception, there's a theory involving waveguides. So waveguides don't use any wires, right? It's the shape of the it's a physical shape of like a rectangular tube that transmits. So electricity doesn't travel through objects, it travels on the surface. That's how we transmit information. That's how we transmit power, data. So it's not just sacred geometry, it's part of the math. It's all there.
Yeah.
It's just, it's something that hasn't been added to this yet, as far as I can see. And yeah, so that's about all I wanted to add to that. That's another avenue that people can look into to see how to tie that all together. And then you get into a weird physics like the abandoned torsion physics of Albert Einstein, which that one's really interesting if you guys want to hop into that weird stuff. And yeah, I enjoy it's getting closer and closer into the woo stuff, especially with Randall Carlson, because I didn't know you didn't know about him.
No, I had no idea, man. And yeah, I think that the thing that we keep hearing, and I think that people who are skeptical of this, it's like, why wouldn't I ever heard of this? It's because it turns out it's a lot easier to hide in general. And you hear people on these spaces that go, yeah, no, the science is real, right? And it's just that the reality,
100%.
The reality is it doesn't move. Truth doesn't move at the speed of the mainstream media, right? It moves a lot quicker. And that's why social media originally was formed. So you could find the answer on social media before you read about it on the news, right? And I wonder if that's not the scenario here, especially when I have smart people coming to me and telling me, this stuff's real. This isn't just like random people off the street. I mean, it kind of is, but these are people that actually do work in these kind of things that are military, that have military backgrounds, people that are in engineering, people that are directly working with the government on it. So I think it's pretty interesting. Good comments, Hermes. Do you have any follow-up before we go to Hey Ocean?
Oh yeah, so I just wanted to throw this out there. I did make a video on this specific thing, a statement made by Salvatore Pais a while back, which was piezoelectricity induced room temperature superconductivity. Yes. That's something that people should look into, because that holds all of this together. And yeah, I think I sent you a video about it, but don't I just skip over the first bit because I didn't realize I made like a really long intro. I just threw it together today. So, but yeah, thanks a lot. I'm just gonna hop back into the YouTube chat and get back with the Orb fam.
Thanks,
Hermes. Can you post that in the chat so people have access to the resources and we can help Ashton down the road?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I want to post your other video as well that you made. It was really good, man. So thank you very much for helping out and being here and with everything. What I wanted to say too about the technology was that they imply something that's a little bit different that I haven't really thrown out there, but I've been wondering, which is, does the superconductivity lead to the technology, or does the technology lead to the superconductivity, which leads to technology? And by that I mean, is it the fact that we figure out how to induce superconductivity that allows for the macroscopic phase conjugation event, or is superconductivity something that is required in order to, have the material science elements kind of update to the level that we need them to get to in order to phase this? I know it's kind of a weird way to phrase it, but they mentioned this in their letter. And I've always been talking about, the orbs, like the superconductivity is the key, right? But it's a little bit deeper than that. The coherent matter wave beam that Lockheed Martin has presumably leads to the superconductivity, which then is what does allow for the magic to kind of happen. And that's what they say in there, which isn't something I've really reported on. So that was really bizarre. Just a lot of elements of this are somebody who's like following along. Like maybe if like Hermes come out and he said that was me, then I would believe it. But like it has to be someone who's following the case pretty closely, in my opinion. Hey, Ocean, what do you think?
Yeah, I just wanted to add too, I threw the video up in the nest again if you guys want to share this letter. I think I was sitting here thinking who would be the best person, like, that's like important, to like get this out to. And then it's just like, no, I feel like everybody should see it. Like whether it's true or not, if everyone's talking about it, like you said before, Ashton, then hopefully it will be addressed by a member of government, right? Like hopefully something happens, even if it isn't necessarily entirely true. There's something else I was going to say too, and then I forgot, but do we have any hands up?
Yeah, well, so I just follow up as well, is that this Jeremy Corbell jellyfish thing's been getting a lot of attention, right? But I wonder, has he ever had something weird parasocial like this happen to him? Like I've never heard about any weird kind of things like this. Like this is pretty damn bizarre, right? Even if someone was famous and they got a message like this, I'm pretty sure the FBI would be going like trying to stalk them and figure out if they're a stalker or something, right? This is pretty nuts. So
the answer is yes, Ashton.
They're probably coming, but I also put up in the nest real quick, Canadian UAV is the only remotely piloted aircraft system company to be given approval by Transport Canada for beyond visual line of sight and detect and avoid radar. So I'm sharing this because if you look at the screenshot that I shared at the very bottom, it says this scares pilots. I thought that was interesting that they put that on their product's website. But yeah, I just want to share that too.
Awesome.
Yeah, I keep going back to the like you guys pointed out earlier, just how well put together it was, trying to figure out the motivations of it, right? And I think it's a decent chance to it's in one of these information control type things as described, for maybe the purpose of disclosure, maybe for other geopolitical purposes, maybe both, right? And I'm looking at Randall Carlson. I've enjoyed him quite a bit on Rogan, like many other guests who explore these not yet mainstream aspects of science. We should reach out to him, or he should reach out to you, because I think you guys would have some interesting things to talk about, maybe in one of your podcasts or such, or maybe you guys can both get together with Joe Rogan sometime soon. That'd be pretty swell as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, very, very interesting, the sacred geometry. I'm reading, about that right now more, and I've enjoyed listening to Randall Carlson discuss that. To me, not being a scientist, it does feel innately true. That this division we've had between the old knowledge and the sort of and sort of the increased sort of cultural limitations of how we do scientific institutions, and trying to bring those two things together with at least based on this narrative of the letter, could be reconciled. And I also really just commenting on the exciting narrative aspects of this again, which might also be true. The idea of the science behind the science behind the science, this kind of outward expanding Matryoshka doll of what you need to get to this level of magic that can turn skyscrapers and cities into dust and then air into oxygen. So it's all very supervillain stuff, but it also could be true.
Yeah, I think that the Randall Carlson thing, I want to know more about that. I mean, I think that that's a thread we pull no matter what on this. Like, okay, somebody really wants us to learn about this guy in general, and I think that it was the lightning patent. If somebody in the chat can find me that guy's name, because he's the one that works with Bob Grenier, supposedly, someone said, which is starting to get pretty damn bizarre, man.
It's Malcolm Bendall. Hey, Ashton, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, hey, George, is that you?
I can hear you.
What's up,
Yep.
buddy?
Ashton, can you hear George?
Welcome, George. Hey, what's going on, buddy?
Ashton, hey.
Hey, Ashton, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear. Yeah, can you guys not hear me, or what's the deal?
No, I couldn't hear you respond.
Oh, can you hear me now, though?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, we're
you
good.
can't
Go
hear
ahead.
George, so George, we're just
No,
gonna
I can hear George.
gently-
I can hear George.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
I can hear him
alright.
fine. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm happy to elaborate. It's funny, I was just looking at Twitter and kind of forgot that you did live events, whatever they call them on Twitter
Malcolm
or X, and so I'm happy to join because it's a little frustrating, but I was just absolutely gobsmacked over dinner here in Morehead City to see that video, right? And I was interested as hell, and I watched the whole thing, and it was captioned, so I couldn't hear it. I didn't even know if anyone was talking. And I got to the end, and damn if it didn't turn to Randall Carlson and Malcolm Bendall, basically, and the whirlwind of intrigue that I've been involved in for exactly a year.
Yeah, the Malcolm
So I'm
Bendall
happy to
part,
talk
like
about
that part is pretty nuts, man. Like, so he's the one. That's the name. Apparently, he's
That's
worked
right.
in low energy nuclear reactions with Bob Grenier. I think there might be a connection there, which is pretty bizarre.
Yes and
'cause-
no. Yes and
Go
no.
ahead.
You're close there in the sense that your friend, I know you and Bob did a recording, and that was very interesting, and I recommend that to people. And Bob came upon Malcolm about 3 months ago and made fast friends, and now we've actually traveled, me and Bob and Malcolm and others, in Zurich and Abbottabad, India, within the last 3 months, publicly demonstrating it. And then I also went to the first public demonstration in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which was in August. So since August, there have been 3 public demonstrations. The second 2, Bob was extremely wired into. And then Bob discovered you, right?
Yeah.
So there are a number of, odd things going on. I'm happy to answer any questions.
What do you think it is? You think it's a real video? Or do you think this is some kind of weird hoax?
Oh, your video? Oh, no, I don't mean
I mean,
to
it's
call
not
it
my
your
video. It's a weird.
That's completely
stalker-
unfair. Yeah, no, what a terrible way to frame it.
Go ahead.
From my personal perspective, no, I've followed you since the very beginning.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm totally intrigued, but I'm an anomalist, and as a really not a professional. Well, I guess I am a professional now because I hold a for-profit business wrapped around this. But I hate to get pinned down. I do think I think they're worthy of attention on the national news. I think that they're absolutely fundamentally important, and we need to get to the damn bottom of it. And I think you've done a wonderful job with it. And it's a very difficult job. You got swept into heretical science or heretical evidence in a whirlwind, and I've had the good fortune to have it creep up on me over really 30 years. I'm only 57, but I've been kind of involved in my particular thing, and it's just fun to watch you handle it so well, getting swept up into it, because it's a hall of mirrors. In the last year, I've been involved with the Malcolm Bendall element of cold fusion. I've been involved with it further another 10 years as an observer just kind of lucky to be able to have some front row seats to see, a group that's working on it very hard. So I was quite a believer. And then Malcolm Bendall, through my friend Randall Carlson, who has nothing to do with cold fusion in my, actual library and Rolodex, who I've known for 10 years, Randall pops up with a cold fusion guy. And I'm like, well, Randall actually knows something about that. We've never talked about it, but be careful. Be careful. And then I met the guy, and I won't even tell the long story short because we'll do it another time,
Yeah.
or I answer questions on it. But yeah, then it's been this wild international tour where I'm still not entirely, God, how do you even put it? It's too good to be true. So I keep my eyes open, but there's a lot going on. So I'll shut up for a minute.
No, thanks, man. Because I think the reality too is I'm kind of experiencing maybe something similar to you. So if this science is real, and we happen upon the one avenue. Maybe there's more than one avenue, but a avenue in order to unlock it. And
That's
you're
right.
sitting in the front row seat to these people who are doing it, but if the public doesn't know about it yet, maybe this is what that
That's
looks like, right? Like that's what I'm sitting here wondering too the whole time. Where I'm like thinking, okay, a big part of me is thinking this is like a hoax, but the other part of me is going like, what if this is real though, man? Like this is just really crazy, right?
Yeah, and I love speculation, and I think that people don't have anything to lose, and you recognize that probably initially. Maybe your friends make fun of you, or your friends, some neighbor, some portion of your neighbors make fun of you. But what do you got to lose beyond that? If you don't have anything to lose. Now there are plenty of people that are actually more important to communicate about this stuff. They all got something to lose. So, and I'm sure this call is full of people who have nothing to lose, and that's a beautiful thing these days. But let me give some pointers, okay? Let me be practical about how to get to Malcolm for you, Ashton.
Yeah, people in
and
the
your
chat
followers.
want me to ask if there's a way to connect to
Yeah,
him, since you may have a connection.
that's right. Because there's plenty out there, and it'll be confusing, and a little bit bewildering to steps into the subject. But the first stops are probably for your audience who's deep in. They want to go to Bob Grenier, who we've mentioned, who has been interviewed by you at the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project on YouTube. And Bob is an open source investigator and experimentalist with low energy nuclear reactions, who again came upon Malcolm just recently, but has documented every part he possibly can of the last 3 months. And that's been a lot. So that's first stop. So that's physical experimentation with this technology. Then the second stop is a fellow named Jordan Collin. And Jordan has a YouTube channel called Alchemical Science. And he is a young man, Australian, seems kind of newly married, no kids yet, living in a farm, taught himself to farm, and he's a mathematical genius. The bottom line is he's a math genius. And he's sitting out there in Australia making videos, the mathematics behind what Malcolm is presenting to the world. And I know he's entirely independent. So you've got then Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project, then Alchemical Science. And then I would recommend my friend Johanna James, who's involved with the Cosmic Summit, which is this event that I'm putting on in June again. And Johanna James is Funny Old World, and she communicates what's going on. She's tied in live to what Malcolm's doing, and she communicates it in a pop culture kind of manner. I mean, it's fun to watch. It's not detailed. So you've got a mathematical perspective, an experimental physicist perspective, and then just a hell yeah, let's be fun and funny about it perspective. So I just wanted to get them out there.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, so stay up here. You can answer some other questions we may have. Real quick before we go to Keemstar, we've got some people donating in the chat. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Someone mentions, where's Ralph Blumenthal and Leslie Keane of the New York Times? These videos blow away the 2017 TikTok videos. I'd say also just the story in general here is just getting weirder and weirder, right? Like, how many times has there been a UFO video where people are like, that science checks out. We need to, start leaking information about the science and have like low energy nuclear reaction scientists coming and talking to us. It's pretty damn weird, man. Anyway, Keem, what do you think about what's going on?
So, first of all, the video that was sent to you or whatever, I love the video. I listened to it 3 times. It's got the story. It's so good, but it's got to be fake. It's 100% fake, and here's why. You can tell the people that made this video aren't working on some secret technology. These are internet people that made this video, 100%. They got the voice changer, they got the graphics. This is an internet type person. This is a Redditor that made this video, 100%. Same thing with like the lock, you know, the password and all that.
Yeah.
This is a clear troll. The thing is, the troll's so vague in so many different ways, it actually might be true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
'Cause they're relatively vague about it, you know? Like,
No, it's
I mean, there
definitely
is
true.
a couple details. There is a couple details with the whole, you know, Chinese scientists trying to steal information and da 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 da. Like, you know, that's something that someone fabricated for sure. Yeah, the chance being actually real and not a hoax, not a troll, are very, very slim. You'd have to have somebody that's doing their 9 to 5, working on this secret technology, and then in their spare time, they're doing some sort of like video production to have those skills to do that. And if you have that type of person, wouldn't they just reach out? Like, wouldn't they just reach out under an anonymous account? Like, what of the video? The whole point of the video is so it's like a spectacle, right? So that's how you know it's a hoax.
Yeah. No, I think that's obviously the biggest percent chance of what this is, right? Some kind of elaborate hoax. The thing that's weird about it is like, okay, so this person has been like, this is like stalker level hoax creepy. Like, you're following every aspect of the case and you're building this 10-minute long elaborate story. But I think the big thing you said is you have to have the knowledge of how to like produce the AI and all that stuff too, right? It's like, what's the profile of the person that would have made this, you know? And one thing I would disagree is I don't think this is somebody who's like the engineer who's making these orbs. I think it's just somebody who, if it's real, then my profile of them is somebody who's in the military, who's, you know, high enough clearance level and tenured enough that they know about these types of events, but, you know, they can never speak about them. And then that makes more sense. Like, those people can never come to you directly. Because, I mean, they're literally giving you a story about how they, like, offed 200 casual people, no problem, right? It's like, no, you're going to get destroyed if you come out like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, if it's a guy working on this technology, you got to assume that guy is 40 or older, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, this isn't some young buck working on this technology. There's no way, right? So now you got to think of like some 40-year-old, like, knowing how to do the voice over AI shit, read the script. Like, come on, bro. Like, it's just, it doesn't seem like that's the type of person that would have the knowledge, that would also know how to produce this video. I'm sorry.
Do you think that, what was I going to say? That it was a voiceover? How do you think it was made, that AI thing? Do you think they did like a voice changer and they spoke into like someone mentioned Dragon.
Yeah,
you could use Dragon software? Go ahead.
You type out an entire script into some type of application, and then for you.
The thing I can't understand is how does it know to do the inflections if you do that? Right? I feel
well, as we had talked about before, Ashton, from my experience, it's incredibly easy to use. There's tons of free and very cheap programs, and anyone, whether they're 40 or younger, although I do agree with Keem's, hey, Keem, nice to see you, by the way, the profile, you know, it's more likely that a younger person would do it, but anyone can figure it out. Anyone can access it. So I don't think there's a barrier of entry there. To me, it just the cadence and the kind of style of it kind of reminded me of speaking of, you know, of Anonymous and the content they've been making. They're supportive of you. So maybe it's some kind of fan or someone loosely affiliated with that who wants to support you in some sort of creepy parasocial kind of way. Is the theory.
I'm with you, Ashton. I think that some of the inflections didn't reflect AI and caught my ear.
Yeah, I think you guys. I mean, I totally agree with you. Go ahead. Keep going, Keem.
Another point that I want to bring up is that they referenced Joe Rogan show, right? And Randall Carlson. It's like, okay, so you're working on this technology and you're sitting there watching, you know, Joe Rogan. You're watching Ashton on Twitter and on YouTube. You're watching all this internet stuff. I mean, come on, bro. This is an internet person. This is such an internet person.
Now, I've got a little insight to the Joe Rogan episode because I sat out in the green room right out there with the security guys below the antelope head. You want to hear about that?
Yeah, yeah. Keep it, give us the abridged version, but yeah, we do, of course.
I'm sorry, say again?
I was just saying, just give us the abridged version, but yes, we want to hear about it, sir, of course.
No, I don't. If you're going to abridge me, I don't.
Okay.
No thanks.
Give us whatever story. Give us your story, whatever you
If
want.
y'all got something better to talk about than what actually happened on the Joe Rogan episode, I'm out, Ashton. That's
I'm
fine.
into it. I'm a fan of you and Joe Rogan. I want to hear it, but it's it's Ashton's space, and he wants to hear it too.
No, go for it. Go for it. I didn't mean to be rude. Go for it.
I thought it was a place to talk. I was just going to give you the scoop on that thing. No, that.
Okay, sorry to turn you off.
something
Okay, we're
right
gonna go to the
about
next
that.
person then. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Weird. I think you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, Ashton. I had no idea that you didn't know about Randall Carlson and the tie-in with what Bob Greenyer's talking about, and the fact that George from Cosmic Tux just came up here. He was there at the Rogan episode. Stuff like it's wild how deep we are in all this, and to learn that you didn't know about Randall Carlson and that whole side of what Bob Greenyer's been talking about. And these guys have all been coming together on the same information from different directions. It's wild. It's where it ties into like the Egypt stuff and everything else. It's the piezoelectric.
It started to tie into like almost too much stuff where it started getting me kind of weirded out. The piezoelectric stuff is what Salvatore Pais has been mentioning, like the old Egypt stuff, which I'm more and more believing. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's just it. It feels like we're at a timeline where it's coming out regardless of it's through whatever disclosure it comes from. The info is coming out. There's too many holes in the dike. There's no plug in it. I'd love to get George from Cosmic Tux back up here to give us perspective on it, because it kind of goes back into where I started following Prasad. What's his last name?
Prasad, yeah.
Yeah, same thing of creating metamaterials, using science to create metamaterials. And really what the I think one of the keys is with the semiconductors is waveguides. That's the thing that keeps coming up, and it's wild. It's all coming together from every different direction, and it's gonna come out one way or the other. I think the video, to Keem's point as well, these are internet people. All this info, the fact you didn't know about Randall. Okay, these people know about Randall, and they could have just programmed an AI to make this thing to spit out a video like this. I completely agree with Keemstar. It's just internet people. I knew everything that they said.
Yeah,
but thanks, man.
Internet people, man. Whew, if so, but it's pretty weird. But it would not surprise me at this point. No, I definitely think that's my number one. Right now, my number two is some kind of weird CIA thing, which is pretty far out there. And then number three is, maybe this is some kind of real person who's, being truthful about it. It's pretty damn bizarre the way it lines up with the science. And I had no idea who Randall was, like this other person as well, Malcolm Bendall. I mean, I didn't know either of them. George, I did not mean to offend you in that way. Hopefully he was not offended. Keemstar, did I push that too far there with that? Was I rude?
You were just excited. You're excited, and I think he's a little bit less excited than you. I don't know. Hopefully he comes back. I know you didn't mean any harm, Ashton. I know you didn't, so.
And there's an interesting tie-in back to like the Maldives and as well as the Azores. And that goes back to a long-held Randall Carlson kind of thing he talked about, is Atlantis. That's where he believes Atlantis is in the Azores. And there's and a weird thing that just happened with that, Eric Weinstein was just out there. I think he spent a month out in the Azores, probably like 2-3 months ago.
Wow.
There is some weird shit happening, man. I don't know what it is, but keep it up, bro. This has been cool.
Yeah, it is cool. Apparently I chased away our most knowledgeable guest. I didn't mean that. I just don't know what's going on. Like, that's why I literally don't know who a lot of the people are in this. It's been an adventure for me. So, once again, I apologize for anyone there. I've got a lot of people in the chat too, mentioning something that I think Randall or Malcolm, one of the two, is like one of Joe Rogan's next or like most popular guests that he has on. And I think
Randall Carlson is. But he didn't put out the Malcolm guys episode. That was a year ago. It was supposed to be out. It was like almost exactly 1 year ago from right now. Really? They did the episode with the Malcolm guy and then never released it. And that's where you hear Randall Carlson talk about it on the Concrete podcast, why it didn't come out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I think we'll get to this one way or another. So I'm not really too concerned about, how long this takes. It feels like if this is not a LARP and this is somehow real, then what's happening seems to be that this technology is trying to get pushed out to the public and we're being used as a microphone kind of for it, which if so, I'm all for it, man. Not that Monica, you have any comments? Sorry to make you wait.
Okay, no worries. Hi. I just wanted to jump on and relate to Keemstar. Like, I kind of agree. Well, I agree with pretty much everything that he said. And it's not to totally discredit whoever put this out there, because maybe they do have, some good little tidbits or, Easter eggs in there for whatever reason. But it definitely seems like someone that has been following you very closely for whatever their motives are. Who knows? But I did go ahead and try to put a prompt into very basic being AI earlier to recreate, a similar piece, monologue or story. And it worked out pretty well. I think I could dial it in with details a bit better. If there were specific things I wanted it to include, I think that I could get my head around it. I think somebody that's better with AI could do it much more effectively than I could. And I'm not that great with it. I just like to chat with it and play around with it.
Since you know a little bit about it, do you think they would have programmed in some of the inflection stuff in there into the AI, into the monologue?
When it comes to the voice part, I think that they basically copy pasted it into a text to voice. And even the most basic text to voice, I mean, just something you can get that's like from 5 years ago, that's an app on your phone. You can use punctuation to really alter its cadence. If you put a question mark in an odd place in a sentence, for example, it'll bring that inflection up and then drop it back down. You can put a period and then a couple of spaces so that it actually takes a breath. So you can actually manipulate that with even old stuff that we have. The new stuff that we have is like really intuitive and better. And I haven't played around with any of that stuff yet, but I have, watched other videos where people are playing with it and seen kind of what it's capable of. And it's really capable, especially in the hands of like kids nowadays. Like, they know how to do all of this stuff. They've grown up with it. So, I mean, I don't think that this would be hard to create with AI, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's just a hoax, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not. It's just, in my opinion, it wouldn't be hard to create with AI, even the whole monologue and story. And keep in mind, too, what you can do with AI is create an initial prompt and then do a story scenario where you trade off paragraphs. So, for example, the AI would create one paragraph, then I would create the next one, and it would take what I just wrote and create the next one. So I could easily put in information more specific to your thoughts and theories on this whole scenario and get it to play along with me to do this whole monologue. So it's actually possible to do it in a really detailed way, but that's not to steal away the potential for this to have some credible information in it. Yeah. It's just, I think at this point it's turned to sort of like a game of Clue, like, who done it and why.
Yeah, definitely. And I think they're presenting some scenarios that are pretty interesting. I want to understand how they made it in general. And if this is somebody who's hoaxing, man, they're giving us a lot of content here. Now, you could say it's a distraction, but like they mentioned, it's like, what are we distracting from? Miami aliens and jellyfish creatures? Like, I'm not too worried about it.
They'd have to be all up in all of your content to go where they went to. I think that's weird as hell too. So
you could tell they were frustrated, right? They were frustrated. They're like, bro, I don't want to hear about these aliens. Get back on the plane. This is the thing that I tune into every day. I watch Ashton on this stream. I want to fuck with him. Obviously he's wrong. We gotta, guys, let's get together. Let's put a script together. Let's throw something in GTP. Let's put in a bunch of key things that are important that'll spin up a script. Okay, let's edit the script a little bit. Voiceover thing. I'm telling you, this is 100% kids. But what we need is we need a camera crew following you around, Ashton. You got to make a documentary, all right?
I told my parents
we should talk about that privately. I don't know if I go through your agent or other people, but yeah, it's being considered, we'll just say.
I think
Do you have an agent?
No, I don't have an agent, but
okay, well, I'll represent you, bro. I'll get you with the best people in the entertainment business.
I was talking about
And we
today. I
will.
was sitting at my parents' place, and I'm sitting in front of the fire. My dad's like, "Can you make the fire go?" While he's like making some dinner, and I'm going, "Dad, I got this influencer who's got like 2.5 million followers, and he keeps telling me I gotta have like a crew follow me around because I'm like my parents are finally kind of able to talk to me about this a little bit. And I'm like, you guys gotta listen to this voice, this message, man. This is like stalker level, like psychopath level stuff going on, and like." Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, go ahead, Keem. Do you have any other final thoughts, or Mello?
But
Anyway.
if all this is being documented, right, and every step of this is being documented, and a camera crew is with you, and you actually solve this motherfucker, you actually get to the bottom of it, you actually figure this thing out, case closed, international news, that documentary, following the whole entire thing, is going to be worth millions.
Yeah, it's not even about the money, but it'd just be about how amazing of a, I mean, you guys have been along for the ride here, right? Like imagine being in my shoes. Like some people out there probably going like, this is fake, right? Like he made this maybe, but no, I didn't make this. This is just the craziest crap happening. Whether or not these are like people that hate me so much that they're trolling me, the Redditors, or if this is real, either way, it's wild. So, Dewar, did you have some thoughts?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, I was actually just working late, doing some AI stuff. I thought maybe I'd play something for you guys, just to show you like just how crazy it's gotten with AI voice generation. Like I just put something together quickly. You want to hear this?
Yes, please.
Okay, sure. Let me play this out. Hopefully you can hear it.
The AI stuff is just really wild to me too, guys.
I just wrote a simple script so you could hear it on the X feed. They just plugged the script into 11 labs using Adam's voice to generate the voiceover.
Yeah.
Hear that?
Yeah. I mean, that's really good. Yeah, I think that the AI stuff is just wild in general, and the voice stuff as well. I mean, I know that's an AI that we're listening to. I know 100%. The question there is like, I'm trying to think about like the mindset of the person who wrote the script, and what they were thinking in general, and all the different synchronicities. I guess I'm using that word so much now. Related to the case is really weird. They also mentioned 2 islands, which I couldn't tell if they were talking about Car Nicobar. And so I'm going to give you a quick timeline of what they said. So they said that they intercepted, or they took the plane 2 hours and 13 minutes after it took off or left. Now, I think that they're using the 1630 UTC time there to make it time up then with 1843 UTC, because they then say that the plane landed at 1856 UTC. That's a very specific number that nobody's ever used. And so it's like, where are they landing? Does that mean they're teleporting right next to Diego Garcia? Like, think about the story they're telling. It's some parts of it seem incoherent, but it could just be that the story that I've been telling is potentially partially wrong. So no matter how I look at this, it's just really, really bizarre, man. And this isn't a person where like with the scam, it was like, what was the story behind it? It was like, oh, I'm a dude with his wife and I want my car fixed up and I happen to have this stuff air gapped. Like that's nothing compared to the complexity of the story that this thing wrote. So pretty wild. Harry King, what do you think, man?
So I want to tackle this from a different point of view. I don't know if this has been discussed yet, but why that flight? Why a Malaysian Air flight?
Yeah, so I think that everybody, even if you look at the other conspiracy theories that have been out there, they've all basically said it has to do with these 20 free-scale semiconductors and engineers. The other common one that you'll hear out there is this idea that there's a patent that 5 people control, and with 4 of them disappearing, it reverts, I think, to the Carlyle group. Now, there could be an aspect to that, but I don't think this is about making people disappear. There's like a lot easier ways that you can do that. We have speculated early on that there's a few different things. It could be an espionage, which I rated pretty lowly, but this idea of like where the plane goes dark is in this like weak zone, and there's a couple passengers that are supposedly Iranian nationals that were like seeking refuge, but they're going to China from Kuala Lumpur to get to Amsterdam. So the satellites, the satellite computer actually only connects to the India satellite, even though it flies towards the Japan satellite. So there may be some play of espionage here, and the idea that the batteries were put on the plane as well intentionally also kind of lines up. The batteries weren't scanned twice. So if we think that, okay, maybe that wasn't incompetence, but that was maliciousness, the story that was presented there where that they intentionally loaded these batteries, they knew they were setting them to burn and they knew how long they would burn, kind of makes some sense. Now, we had always pretty much proposed every single time that I think that this plane's being saved, that the teleportation event, which is an endothermic event, could be absorbing the energy from the batteries. And the idea is that these people are tied to the technology. That is something that I've always pushed out there. The other scenario is real quick that there's like maybe a VIP that's super important on board the plane. Maybe it is one of those people. And then the last scenario, which I think is like the lowest likelihood, is, well, what if this was a weapons test? Assuming, again, this is all assuming the videos are real. So what do you think about that?
Right. So several of those can be definitely questioned. And questioned, I'm going to put it in this way. In today's day and age, when a plane disappears and you get that type of mobilization, you don't pick a plane as a target. You would pick something more inconspicuous if you're doing a test, trying something out, this, that, and the other. To eliminate people, get rid of them, make them disappear, you don't pick a plane full of passengers because, you know, those make national and global headlines, as you clearly have seen.
Mm-hmm.
And also for the fact that, you know, different governments are involved, different airspaces, so on and so forth. So the notion as to why that plane, just as a reference, I don't know if you guys know, there are usually about 2,500, and I've been trying to research how many transoceanic, not transatlantic, oceanic flights there are per day. And it's unfortunately, it only gives you transatlantic. I haven't seen transpacific, but there are so many different flights per day that crosses oceans. When you're referencing that it's maybe these two Iranians who wanted to defect, well, yeah, okay. If you analyze that, how does that go? Well, you make a whole plane, you take a whole plane down for that.
Yeah, so it's not just to clarify real quick that the Iranians were ones that were running on stolen passports. They're not the ones that were defecting. We have 20 free-scale engineers who are on board the plane, which is 20 is way too many. And in this piece, they also mentioned that this espionage plan was known about since December beforehand. That's something I've never broached at all. It's completely original. And they also mentioned they knew this was going to happen. They let it play out like a movie, and that 8 of these people were Chinese. They mentioned that the Chinese ones were the ones that were going to defect, supposedly. They also said that they intercept, like they knew, think about it this way as well, is that they were American. They would probably come from different places in the United States, and then they were flying to KL to fly to Beijing. That's their connecting location, right? And so they pick them all up, and they know that this one plane is the one that they, this is the one they're going to make disappear. Now, to your point, yes, this seems like a huge amount of work. But the reality of this thing is this is definitely a conspiracy. When we look at it, the fire scenario, just take away the orbs and teleportation stuff. From what we've investigated, the fire scenario makes the most sense out of everything that's out there. These batteries are extremely dangerous. They weren't scanned. They're in the forward cargo bay right next to the main equipment center. Makes sense as why the plane knocked the plane out. The flight path is going back to Penang, the closest airport. They assumed early on it was a maintenance emergency. We've just forgotten all this information. We've forgotten that a 777 can't crash into the ocean without leaving a debris field. So what this means, though, is then there's a huge conspiracy because they fabricated these Inmarsat pings in that scenario. And all you have to do in order for this scenario to make sense is take away the Inmarsat pings. That completely takes away every single expert out there. Their theory of what happened to this plane just completely falls apart, including Richard Godfrey with his whisper data. That's all based on the Inmarsat pings. Even Jeff Wise, he says that he just thinks the plane went north instead of going south. He thinks it went to Russia, right? The Inmarsat pings are what keeps this narrative alive out there. So the fire scenario, in my opinion, is the most common one. Now it's just a question of, okay, would they really go and deploy this kind of technology? Would you really take out 200 people? The person mentions, I didn't even know the numbers. Like they say 1,500 family members and like 10,000 people searching. Those were numbers too I didn't even know about. So a lot of really weird details. Any last thoughts, Harry, on that?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. On a fire-based scenario, right? So if you examine that, you mean to tell me the entire plane vaporized in air without any trace? I'm sorry, I find that a bit hard to believe myself.
No, and I don't think it did necessarily vaporize, but it could. That's what they're saying as well, is that this technology used slightly differently. And this goes back to the idea of the sacred geometry. And what I like about the sacred geometry is the idea of simplicity. And that if you think about, like, if you were just to say, okay, I'm going to have a line start, turning around or going in any direction. Like, what would you say is like the most, I guess, like organized structure? It's going to be different shapes that happen. And this is like if you're thinking of the basic framework of the matrix underneath this reality that we live in. You would think it might be right angles where you're making squares. I think that would be the most common conception. But you could have other more complicated shapes. And I think about that more and more with the stuff like the toroids. Because when you're trying to break reality, then what do you want to do? You want to try to, like if you're playing a video game, what you're trying to do is trying to push the limits. You're trying to figure out what's the OP thing and strategy that I can do that will, make me have something significantly better than the next person. That's what I think about when in terms of like what we need to be able to do to break through the reality and have like teleportation happen or annihilation. And once you unlock any of them, I think you unlock all of them. So I don't know that they're saying that they annihilated the plane here, but it definitely is a possibility. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, let's look at the flight path, right? Flight path says it all. Who picked it up, right? So you've definitely got Malaysia picking it up. You've got Malaysian military picking it up. You've got it crossing back over the Malaysian peninsula and then making that right turn at Penang. Those are all verified radar. Well, what we're being told is verified radar contacts, right? At that point, it's simply vanishing, annihilation, teleportation, incineration, however you term it, right? Doesn't hold, because when the flight path is plotted and they've seen it and they've tracked it, again, this is what we're being told, right? It all of a sudden makes that, it could have either gone on the northern arc of the seventh arc or the southern arc, right? And that's where I agree with you. The only quote unquote facts that we have is that Emersat satellite showing it on the southern arc. It could have easily got on the northern arc and produced that exact same scenario.
Yeah.
I agree with you that the lack of a debris field, even when a plane hits the water, is startling. But I'm more of the belief that I think the plane did have some kind of issue after it crossed over Penang and made that weird right turn, and then went out to sea. I think it could have resulted in some kind of, let's just put it this way, malicious decompression that could have happened, right? And the pilot ended up, doing this. I find it hard to believe, well, it's not hard to believe, but it's a harder stretch to believe that it was some type of teleportation.
Oh yeah, of course.
But the thing that gets me the most, and this is where, even on a debris field, right? And this is where my knowledge is, because I fly a lot, that's why. There is an issue with one aspect. A plane carrying a ton of kerosene, jet fuel, if it runs out and then plummets to the ocean, and that's like hitting like a hard rock.
Yep.
My issue is, like, there was no sign of an kind of any oil or jet fuel, and this is what I don't know, and this is why I came on board to ask you.
Sure.
If we take it at face value that yes, it was pilot, the captain that did this, and he maliciously, decompressurized the plane, the passengers in the rear passed out, then asphyxiated. That took care of his problems of any kind of retaliation. He already had locked out the co-pilot from the cockpit. He was all by himself, turned off all the transponders. He knew exactly how to do that. Plane runs out of fuel, plummets to the ocean. There is no jet fuel left for it to disperse as it hits the ocean, because it just ran out of fuel and just went straight down. The debris field is what's getting me hung up on. There is no debris field, and that's what's causing me to question which arc they were looking on. There is no debris field.
It gets worse than
And
that too.
that's
Real
the most
quick.
thing, right?
Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, no, I think I agree with you there. So now the thing too is that a lot of people don't mention this is that this narrative out there, this path to suicide, has the plane running out of fuel. And like you mentioned, if this plane's running out of fuel, they're not making a controlled landing. Like this thing's going to stall. They're going to just crash down, right? And then it's going to explode into thousands of pieces. And there's going to be debris everywhere. And the other thing too is there's no acoustic detections. We would expect an acoustic detection in pretty much any scenario, unless it is like somehow this perfect, feather drop onto the ocean. We know about the SOSA system, Diego Garcia hydrophones, as well as Western Australia hydrophones. The number of radar systems that had to have picked this thing up, it's actually just getting ludicrous at this point. I used to think it was just like Indonesia and Australia, which both have huge radar systems that could not have possibly missed this plane. But it's also Thailand, India, and those Car Nicobar and Port Blair. It's also Diego Garcia supposedly should be able to track this from its takeoff. There's also the Coco Islands has a SIGINT base right there in the South Indian Ocean. No way it can possibly miss it. And then you also have Pine Gap Air Force Base or base in Australia, which is also this secret, space-based radar-based system. So it's like there's no way the U.S. didn't see it at all. Just no chance at all. And that's the thing about
Northern
it.
Arc, right?
Yeah.
It pointed to the Northern Arc. That it went on the other end towards Russia.
And the problem with that is there's also tons of radar systems. And then you also have to figure out, okay, well, why would Russia keep this quiet, right? Why are we keeping it quiet if we know it went to Russia? So my opinion is that the U.S. government knows definitely what happened to this plane. Let's go to Thomas. You've had your hand up for a while. Thomas Edward Mulford Jenkins. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, man. How's it going?
Hey, how you doing? Hey, I just want to say hi to the guy if he's going to troll again or he's actually giving information if he's listening right now. I do want to throw some advice to the guy if he is releasing that information. There is a way for any of you to leak that information if you really have the documents through blockchain. And a lot of people don't realize with the blockchain technology, it's not just some currency that can exchange. Blockchain is a technology where you can now have truth instead of trust. That's where we're kind of leading into this new field. And with AI, it's very easy to create manipulation, especially this year with the elections going on. I mean, Ashton, I can literally take 3 of your videos, go on an LLM, and I can replicate your voice perfectly and even pitch and tone exactly how I want it. So now we're trying to get into this territory of digital identity. I know it scares a lot of people, but you can do it with this technology called zero knowledge proof. So let's say if you're on the Ethereum blockchain, you're like, hey, I want to get some information without revealing identity. They can go on that blockchain, send you sensitive data without revealing their identity, and it could be protected. So in theory, you could go on the blockchain, get this person to give you the information if they have the balls to do it. If you're listening, can totally set that up, and they can give you that information. You can verify it right then and there, and it would not reveal their identity. So I'm just throwing that out there. If you're listening right now, there is a way for you to release the information without getting your ass in trouble.
Yeah, and just do it in a way where somehow I can figure out this Ethereum thing. That's pretty tough for me, but I think I totally agree with what you're saying in terms of if this is real and somebody's out there trying to get information out there, yeah, do it in a safe way. And I think that there are people out there that know what happened to this plane. I mean, I'm certain of it, right? So we just need one of them to do the right thing and speak up, right? And if they speak up and tell us what happened to this plane, all this stuff goes away. Whatever this whole thing that's going on right now goes away. I wish people would just speak up, whatever the answer is, right? Like, I think we deserve to know the truth. So if you're out there, if you're the person that made this video, if you're somebody else who happens to know, please just speak up, tell us the truth, give us the truth for the families, etc. We can take it, even if it's this dark story of them all getting wiped out. I think that, and I don't mean that in a that was kind of a crass way. I mean, them all dying is horrific, and that's why we want the answers. Anyway, hey, Ocean, you had your hand up.
I did. I put it down. That blew my mind. Blockchain disclosure. I'm telling you.
Me?
Yeah, blockchain
Hello?
disclosure, baby. That is amazing. Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, we're gonna let.
Hey, Ocean was speaking. I think you might not be able to hear.
Yeah. Hey, babe, I muted you. I don't know if you can hear me, but we're gonna maybe have to recycle you because it's not.
Okay. You hear me? Okay. What I was saying, thank you, Ashton, for all your hard work. You have some of the craziest trolls that I've ever seen. They're starting their own disinformation campaign. Most of them are useful idiots and shills, I think, maybe from different intelligence agencies. I don't have evidence of that. But if everyone wants to take a step back and look at a book from the early 1800s from Francis Barrett, and he discussed these demon sigils. They're basically symbols, and if you take apart a Microsoft computer, a lot of these microchips have these same images as these old occult books that you can read in these areas. So I find that pretty crazy, because I looked at your video over and over again of those 3 orbs going into there, and it all goes back to sacred geometry. And if these elites have that info, which we know they do, they could obviously pull something like this if you believe in stargates and telepathic transportation and whatnot. But I think this technology has been around for at least the last 60 years, and we're just unaware of it. So when we all saw that, it was a really big shock. I mean, even in my belief zone, but this technology has been around a long time, so I wouldn't put it past them for using it. And that's all I got to say. Thank you very much, Ashton, for letting me speak. And you have some great subscribers. You have a great community, and peace out and blessings.
Thanks a lot, Deep Ancient. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, this is weird for me, man, just to be honest with everybody. And I've probably said this before, but people don't know. And then we'll get here to Taco Loco, is that, I was never big into conspiracies or even this deep into the science or this into stuff like, sacred geometry. Really is what we're talking about. Sacred geometry is like, what is the simplest form our universe can take? Shapes, right? And then building those shapes into patterns and repetition as well. So I think that a lot of this has just been hard for me to take in. And if this is a giant psyop, and if there are people trolling on it and are trying to lead me down this weird path, well, I thank you regardless, because it's been quite a journey for me anyway, however this plays out. Taco Loco, what's going on, man?
Yeah, listen, not to flex, but I used to sail those waters when I was in the Navy. I was a weapons officer on the ship after I was a reactor operator before. So I glommed onto this MH370 thing because it bugged me when it happened. All we did when we were out there was track airliners for practice. And when you were on an exercise like Cobra Gold or that, whatever that weird one was named, but I mean, we did that. Oh yeah, all you do. There is zero freaking chance we didn't have a track on that. Zero.
Yeah, especially with the proximity,
not just the little small boy surface ships, the Aegis, which can track a basketball at 250 miles, plus the AWACS. If something weird was happening, back in the old days, they would have sent a fighter count. Now they would have sent drones, like we saw. I saw synthetic aperture radar being worked on my ship by the guys at Spaywar in San Diego, the spooky guys, in the 90s, and it looked just like that. And that's why I knew when I saw those videos that it was legit. Plus the lat long and all that. I mean, that's legit. There's zero doubt in my mind. I've also happened to have picked up pieces of a jet that got shot down in a training exercise in the ocean, and I'm here to tell you that was just an A6. There's fuel everywhere. You can see it from the sky. There's pieces everywhere. Yeah, the plane did not crash in the sea, especially not with that going on.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to keep going.
I had a top secret clearance, and mostly mundane stuff, and I'm not trying to flex, but one thing that you know about that, if you're in it, is everything is siloed and need to know. So some guys may be even like this guy. This guy may be legit and telling the story that he thinks is true. It may not be a LARP. And one thing to think about is like, what is he saying? He says, stop looking at the stupid jellyfish and whatever happened to that mall. I mean, that's clearly probably some kind of distraction. And look at this. Remember what's at stake here. I know about this energy. I mean, I came to the MFMP because I was following cold fusion back in nuke school when I was a kid. I mean, I know this tech is real, and I've spent years, following Bob and doing my own research. I've transmuted metal. I've made those little microscopic crenellated iron. It's real. So, everyone wanted to say, well, what does, Weinstein say about it? Well, either he's wrong or he's lying or he doesn't know, because this stuff is true, period. So we're all scientists here. Don't say, oh, because I don't have a white coat, I'm not a scientist. We're looking at the observation and trying to make something fit to it. And all this science came up, and it's legit. Malcolm and his tech. I did something like that when I was a kid. That's just pretty mundane saving fuel stuff using low energy nuclear fusion and the toroidal moment. Blah blah blah. I won't bore you with the tech, but it's real and it's earth shattering, right?
Yeah.
So remember that. So there's going to be all kinds of stuff coming out like this to distract us. It'd be great. Yeah, you should be recorded because it is big. But the big thing is we don't, like you say, we don't need energy. We don't need to pay for fuel anymore. We can literally transmute metals. We can do all that stuff, and they have been doing it. You talk about Bob Lazar, and everyone goes, oh, SBS, because he says, element 115 is, Californium or whatever, some transuranic. Doesn't matter. That what it behaves like is a metamaterial doped with EVOs. That if you go through what an EVO is, it's just a mini bit of ball lightning, which is comprised of sacred geometry whirls in the toroids, like you see on those Dragon Balls all over Asia. And Bob's got you got to do the work to see that. But I'm here to I'll save you guys. You can trust me or not, but I'll save you the time. It's legit, and you've already talked to guys that agree, and we're all coming from different directions, and we all got here, and it's written on all the ancient monuments for a reason.
Yeah.
And then when they talk about the ancient cataclysms and all that stuff being destroyed, what do you think did it? What do you think carved the pyramids?
Yeah. So I appreciate you.
Keep your eye on the ball on this.
Yeah.
Is that freaking big?
Yeah, so I first thing you mentioned is like the clearance. There's a lot of people who have clearances. I've had a top secret clearance. Mine is mundane, but you know what? I'm flexing about it anyway. No, I don't really talk about it that much because I don't think it's that huge because of my knowledge is mundane. But if you think about somebody who does have that knowledge, I think you brought up some really great points about it, how this could be real. And the story behind it being real would be that somebody has compartmentalized information. And what that means is they're just telling the story of what they think. It might not even be 100% accurate, right? They're just telling the story from the perspective of what they saw. Like, don't think that like they're an engineer. What if they're just somebody who is in the know with a top secret clearance that is a person that manages the inbound flights at Diego Garcia, right? Of course they know that.
They lied to us how nuclear power works. I mean, they lied to us about that, because we didn't need to know. I'd ask my instructor, but wait, sir, if this happens, they'd go, shut up, son, and just push the I believe button and answer this way.
Yeah.
And
So I was going to say too, real quick on what you mentioned is this idea of infinite energy. There's a term called over unity device, which is essentially a perpetual motion machine, which is, a free energy device to a degree. So that might be something that we look into as well, related to this. Now that we,
but that's like that word's poison. That term is poison, like conspiracy theory. I mean, if you talk about what Bob and Saul talks about, if you set up the right situation, you end up setting up basically a portal where one form of energy transmits to switches to the other. It gets into the phase conjugation and the scalar wave and all that stuff. And when you understand it that way, without the prejudice of there's no such thing as perpetual motion, well, why? We see it.
Exactly.
What's making the Earth go around the sun?
Yeah.
It's not inertia. That's what all these great scientists teach you. Even Einstein will be talking about, oh yeah, it's just inertia, and it's all gravity. It's not. I mean, that gets into the electric. I mean, it's all connected, and it all has to work together. 100%. So the Earth is a homopolar motor, and it speeds up when there's a solar flare, as one would. Blah, blah, blah. Okay?
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Taco Loco. That's some good information. I think that you mentioned Weinstein as well. Eric Weinstein, I believe you were talking about. And I think that when we talk about the physicists that are out there, there's a lot of physicists too, and I don't mean to disrespect him at all. I'm actually not really talking about him in this case, but I think it was
nice guy. Sounds like a nice guy.
Yeah, Gary Nolan was ripping on Neil deGrasse Tyson, saying like, when was the last time he was in a lab, right? And I think we also have to remember that a lot of these academics and people out there, the reason why we don't look for people who have letters next to their name is we know that just because you have letters next to your name doesn't mean that you're somebody who's in the know, that you're in the trenches doing the tests, right? You're just somebody. A lot of times there are people that are reading other papers, they're coming to their own interpretation, they're just giving their opinion, right? They're sometimes they are like science influencers and not science experimenteers.
The basis of electrical engineering, Maxwell's equations, was pounded down to make it easier and to take all this stuff out of it. And and Bob Rossi will tell you that. Anybody will tell you that.
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting there. One thing I want to go back to just real quick, that was back to the more of the what happened with the plane scenario that Harry was talking about. One thing that happened recently too was this door fell off of this 737-9 MAX, And none of those passengers passed out or anything like that as well. In fact, those air oxygen masks apparently worked. I have no faith in the oxygen masks. And after this investigation, we learned they only last for like 30 minutes, which makes me wonder, did they tell those passengers that? Now, what I was told by somebody, as a commenter, I don't know if it's true or not, that this happened when the plane was at like 14, 15,000 feet. So quite a bit different than being at cruising altitude, but still really scary. Now, keep in mind, like when you're at cruising altitude and you land, normally the landing process takes between like 20 and 30 minutes, which is already a really short window of time. So you have to get to the ground like right away. Just something to keep in mind in general, because I think that if the pilots were to depressurize the plane manually, like they're not blowing off a door, right? They're using something to like open the vents or something like that, right? It's going to be a slow process. It's not going to be a process where everybody gets wiped out instantly. Like we see that happen with this door situation. Which is a much worse situation. Let's go to Hermes real quick, and then we'll go to Hey Ocean.
Oh, hey, yeah, I just wanted to touch on some of the stuff that Taco Loco was saying. I was dying laughing because the rage, I can feel it because I have the exact same. I'll give a bit more of my background. I'm a fully qualified naval weapon technician and a sonar technician for the Canadian Armed Forces, and I train people on all this stuff. I was flown over to on a helicopter to fix some equipment on USS Pinckney during like a West Ploy a couple times, stuff like that. And it just there's so much information that's available online and just out there that as soon as people know what to look for, they can figure out the analogs to relate them to other systems. Like a lot of electrical engineering works like fluid dynamics. So as soon as you get to high power and high frequency with waveguides and whatnot, you run into issues like conglomerate eruptions in your waveguides, which is it's the same type of cavitative issue that you run into with propellers. So there's a lot of the stuff that relates in the macro world that you can see. And just like with you've heard of phase shifting with different electrical signals. Now, what happens when an electron phase shifts? There's a wind. There's an ion wind. That's what happens. It's slight, but every electron produces a mild ion wind, and that's where you get that type of thrust from. It's the same, and it's all cyclical. It'll keep going back on itself, like that antipole design that Bob Greenyer was talking about. And it's you have to realize that we are constantly being bombarded by waves that are way outside of our spectrum. We only see a very tiny visible spectrum of light all the way down to 0 hertz, which is going into the redshift and whatnot. And that's where you get into the L frequency stuff. And that's where you get into transmission carrier frequencies that can travel through the earth or through into your brain, which they already have patents on for these new screens, these LCD screens. I passed them up before. And anyways, I'm just going to pass the buck on this one.
Yeah, so I mean, what you're getting at is that the science and what we see out there, there's a lot more than what we can visually see, especially in the spectrum, and everything is really a matter of vibration. I think that I didn't give Ken Wheeler enough of a chance early on because I was having my own CNN brain go on, but I think that his theory that we need to stop thinking in particles and start thinking about waves makes a lot more sense to me. And because when you think about it like that, you don't think of light as a photon, but you think of it as the interaction of space-time, where space-time is reverberating, kind of like you would think of it as sound.
Don't think of a wave. Think of an oscillation. There's a slight difference because an oscillation is a three-dimensional movement, and that's one of the things that they don't teach people. In 3D space, you have people only think of forward, back, up, down, left, and right, but there's actually pitch, roll, and yaw as well. And that's the same thing for any object traveling. It's through wave propagation. So there's a bunch of principles that people are going to have to look into to figure this stuff out. But I'm just going to drop off here and get back into the YouTube chat.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate you, man. Just real quick, I want to get to some other people here as well. But yeah, so this idea of you have wave propagation, why that's important is think of the glass scenario. I think Dave Rossi brought this up, why it was so important, is if you flash your light through the glass, you're going to see it bend, right? And that tells us that there is another medium there, right? Now you have to think of the air as well, and the space around us is yet another medium. So is there really a speed of light, or is it the speed of light is just propagating through what we would consider as empty space, but it's not really empty space? There's like, they say ether, but I call it matrix, whatever, underlying framework. So those are definitely some advanced concepts we want to be thinking about if we think the science is real, because we have to stop thinking inside this box that we were taught previously. Hey, Ocean, I saw you had your hand up. I want to get some hands here.
Yeah, for sure. We haven't heard from Anima yet, so.
Oh, Enema? Yeah. Enema, and then we'll go to Harry
Enema,
King.
sorry, my bad.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, hey, it's yeah, Anima. That's a friendlier way of saying it. I adopted that handle in 2015. I'm sorry, 2006 when I got my decades wrong. When I almost went to work for the FBI for the Carnivore Project. I didn't. It fell through, but just in retrospect, you're fighting the good fight, Ashton. It is a hard area to practice honesty and openness and transparency. Excluding your own bias at any given moment as you intake more information. That's true science. And we're practicing here as a crowd, a lot of crowdsourced science. I just learned things in the past 10 minutes and it just reverberates, right? It all seems to make sense. So I know it's a good vibe here. So kudos to you and the team.
Thanks, man.
I think the challenge, 2 more points real quick. The challenge today is, many speakers have mentioned, is authenticity, right? Validity, a chain of custody. My own domain right now is cybersecurity. So one of the things I actually fired up is a website recently. I tried to fire it off for interest at Reddit, and I got shut down by the UFO moderators for trying to commercialize. And right on the front page, I'm like, this is nonprofit. Like, I'm not trying to. So it's an AI-driven, you submit a picture, and that's an octopus, but it's really this, morphology. And, so a lot of things can happen. We can crowdsource, hey, were there any other people in the area? So it's kind of like taking Avi Loeb's star scanner idea with a $6,000 setup and making the average Joe or Jane have that in their pocket with an app. We'll see where it goes, but the URL is uapx.io. Sorry, small self-promotion, but it's for the community, and I truly am a believer. So here's my take, and here's the rather darker aspect of what I see recently with the YouTube comment. I think it came in today, where you had, I'm trying to trace my day, but basically there's a submission to you from somebody on YouTube that is asserting some facts about their involvement and validating the U.S.'s utilization, purportedly, of advanced technology harvesting from, we're going to conceive here, and I believe in the concept of NHI, right? So let's just break it down. I believe in the concept of a deep state so rapidly here, and I'll try to cut it off, and I won't go too long with it, but it could be disinfo, right? It could be, and here's my TLDR. Maybe it's NHI gone wild, right? Where they've just violated the Greada Treaty. They've just absconded with 200 plus human souls, and we may never know the reason for it. Right now, who wants to cover that up? Well, obviously, if we're thinking in this kind of foo and woo area, which I practice it all, right? I love the hard science, and I love the meta topics, right? So the bigger topic is, it could be just something that was out of our control, and we don't want anyone to really know that. That kind of fits in line with some of the thematics of the bigger community's drives for awareness, that this may not all be bright and shiny in the way that we need to, or we have thought about it, so our consciousness expanding how we think about things might need to change. But for right now and right here, have you considered this could be a disinfo op? And that's my takeaway.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I have. I've considered every possibility because, again, this is a letter that, for some background, how I became aware of it. Earlier today, right after lunchtime, I saw myself get pinged. I get pinged to a lot of stuff. I haven't been really following my notifications super strongly, but pretty closely. And so I look at it, and I've looked at a lot. You guys sent me some other videos today, like this one woman talking about some pretty advanced, interesting technology. And I saw this one, and first thing I read is a letter to Ashton Forbes. And usually if there's something in the media or whatever, I try to look at it and see, is it talking about me? There's been a few cases where they've been talking about the case, but not really super in detail. So I looked at this, and right away I got creeped out. I mean, it was right away I could tell it was super specific, very personal. And I think no matter how you look at it, the narrative around the mindset of the person who sent this is they were upset at something. They were either upset because And this is just, again, if I don't know if somebody crafted this narrative or what have you. I think it could be disinfo to either push me off some other scenario, push me off the non-human intelligence scenario, or maybe just pushing towards this espionage scenario that I haven't really been promoting. Really, honestly, with you guys, I have no idea what's going on here with this. But the reason why they seem like they can be angry is either because I was talking about the mall aliens. They mentioned that. Right? It's almost like, hey, focus back on the stuff that matters. Like, if you're somebody who knows about this information, as you saw that you've heard the anger in some people's voices who know the science is real, right? Those kind of people, that's like, oh, okay. We want you to be focusing on this. Like, you're our mouthpiece to get this out there. There's not really anybody else doing it. Or it could be a scenario where, they were just more personally upset about just different aspects that were in there as well. Related to making fun of sacred geometry. If you want to think of it from that perspective, or maybe they just thought that like some of the scenarios that I put forward were close, but not really. So it's pretty weird no matter how you look at it. If it is a hoax, it's extremely parasocial. This is like people that definitely have been following the case pretty closely. You're not a random person off the street coming up with this hoax. It would have to be our Redditor friends. Certainly a possibility. Yeah. Jump on
Ashton, just a quick clarification on that part, because hey, Thomas, a pleasure to meet you. Thomas mentioned that the letter featured not just the mall aliens like you described, but also maybe the squid alien. Was it just the mall aliens? I want to clarify for this analysis.
I didn't hear anything about the squid aliens. I've listened to it like a dozen times because that's how weird it is. But definitely mentioned the mall aliens multiple times.
Okay, so maybe the squid aliens are real. It's just the mall aliens, according to this potential hoax.
Yeah,
or maybe insider. Yeah. Just clocking all the angles here. No big deal.
Yeah, and it could be partial truth and partial fake. There's everything in between on this one, guys. It's a weird one. My opinion, kind of analysis, of just kind of breaking it down. We're gonna do a couple more questions, and I think we're gonna close it down because I'm pretty wiped out by this. It's been a pretty bizarre afternoon. Is that the truth is I don't know what's going on with this, but I think that it will reveal itself over time, right? So even with the scam that happened with the RAR files, like we got to the answer within like 2 days, right? I think that something like this there's gonna be some breakaway. Either they're gonna do another letter, it'll be more information, we'll be able to tell if it's a scam or not. So I think that we don't have to worry too much about decoding anything here. Just go along for the ride and not get too committed one way or another is kind of my opinion on it. Let's go back to Harry real quick, and then we'll go to Nathaniel.
Hi, Ashton. When I did the research on this regarding the oxygen on board these commercial airliners, so the main cabin, from my understanding, from what I remember reading, can provide anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes worth of oxygen, right? Now, in the pilot's oxygen masks in the cockpit, and they have reserve tanks in the front cabin area, I believe I recall reading they could last up to 2 hours. So basically, they're a mask attached to a green oxygen tank they put on their face, and they could breathe oxygen for up to 2 hours, from my understanding. Or what I remember reading of it. So if the pilot did decide to do this, I'm not saying that he did, but if he did, he could have simply just opened up the vents at 33 to 35,000 feet. It's quite cold, and the lack of oxygen would have led to hypoxia right off the bat. And within 20 minutes, let's say I'm giving him the most amount of allotted time, within 20 minutes, most of those passengers would have been passed or would have died because of hypoxia, lack of oxygen on the aircraft. However, remember how I said that the co-pilot could have been possibly outside of the plane? Outside of the cockpit? Well, if the co-pilot was outside of the cockpit, that co-pilot could have had the oxygen tank that they store in the front main cabin area for emergency use. And that's, another scenario that, hey, if that, as he's trying to get into the cockpit, remember, once you're outside of the cockpit, you got to get let back in by the pilot and or co-pilot that presses that button to release that door. So as much as, we have all these different theories, again, I just fall back to the exact same issue. Where's the wreckage when that plane hits that water at that speed as it plummets, even if it ran out of fuel? you would have seen wreckage, especially flotation devices, life vests, something or other. I am of the belief that it may have landed somewhere, and then certain parts of the plane were dismantled and thrown into the ocean. So it would wash up on shores, and that would equate back to, oh yeah, it hit the ocean, it's in the depths, and they would stop an investigation, because it's costing millions, and it did cost millions and millions of dollars to, C-scan the Indian Ocean trying to find this aircraft.
Yeah, 155 million, I think, at least, maybe up to 250 million. They estimated. Yeah, the thing I have against this oxygen scenario is just no evidence. There's just no actual evidence. It's all speculation. And sure, you can speculate something when we have no idea, right, what happened to the plane. But I really don't like the idea that somehow he was able to lock the co-pilot out, even though we saw it happen with the Germanwings guy in 2015. But the difference there is he crashed the plane in 9 minutes. He didn't go around on a joyride. This idea that we're going to knock everybody else out, it seems too movie-like to me. The couple of things are that, yes, they're going to knock themselves out. The oxygen masks, you have the cabin oxygen, and then you also have the oxygen that's in the crew area. So you've got to get all the crew out. There's like 12 crew members, right? And then also you've got to knock everybody out before they retaliate. So first thing they're going to do is they're going to come at the door. They're going to go through the panels. They're going to try to go through the equipment bay. I don't know. It just seems too fantastical. We haven't really seen this kind of scenario ever play out. And the times too, I think you're right about the oxygen in general. I think I've heard, depends on how gracious you are about the passenger oxygen, but yeah, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that. And then for the crew, I heard it's 2 hours. The thing you have to keep in mind there is it depends on the oxygen level they're running it at. So I think the 2 hours, maybe if you're at 100% oxygen, there's quite a bit difference whether or not you're at 100% oxygen or not. And you're going to want that depending on what your altitude is. But in general, I appreciate your insights on that. I think that's what the narrative that's out there is, that's what happened, because we just don't know otherwise. And like the debris field, I always go back to it because it's the number one thing. Where the heck is this debris field of this plane? Nathaniel, let's go to you, buddy, and then I think we're gonna go to Sarah, and we're gonna close up here in the next 10 minutes or so.
Oh, hey, thanks. I thought that I might defer to Sarah just because I don't think I have the most important viewpoints. I did have a couple of things I could mention in less than a minute.
Oh yeah, go for it.
But I will give it over. I will give it over to her because there's a good chance that I'll learn something from this, and I'll be back around. I really appreciate the time, and I could say a lot of positive things, but just know that I thank them. I came onto the space one time before, and I got something wrong. I wanted to make a correction on, which is the Emerald Tablets of Thoth authenticity. I thought was I conflated it between the Emerald Tablet and Thoth, which are historical, but there's not early history of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth by Doriel that I thought they were. So it could be a hoax there, or it could be a legitimate legacy information gotten from other means, but it's just not verifiable. I did have a couple of other things I'd like to say, and again, I can do it in less than a minute.
Yeah, you're fine.
I'd like to. Oh, okay. Well, I had just a couple of veins of comments or leads, and then just one question. So on the letter that you got, or the AI voice that came through, whether it's right or not, everything doesn't hinge on it, so I don't think it's the most important, but I do think that the lead of Randall Carlson on sacred geometry was amazing. And I think it leads you into a positive space, which might be connected with a couple of other things. I recommended looking into cymatics before, which just give form of sound in objects, but the shape of the form and the structure seems to have a lot of overlaps when we're talking about these geometric shapes and other forms. Also, I'd be interested in the science of consciousness involved with all of this. Mm-hmm. So I think that Dean Radin has reproducible experiments with affecting a random number generator with consciousness alone. Either that is or is not true. I believe it is true that that's been reproduced. And it's either true or not, but I believe it is that Dr. Emoto put intentions into ice crystal structures. So I think we do have a basis for moving on to a science of consciousness that would be interesting to explore. The other thing I wondered about is I sent you a video. It was like a 4-hour Stephen Greer thing. And I realized that we all have different amounts of time and capability of looking into things. So my question is, would it be helpful to give quotes and timestamps to break things down, TLDR, some interesting topics, or maybe you've got enough on your plate?
No, if you have those, definitely pull them up and either hit me up in the replies with them on the various videos. I'm always looking for little clips and stuff that explain it. It's funny because I've been thinking that I want to go back through my own interviews with people because as I've been getting more knowledgeable of the science and everything behind it, things are starting to make more and more sense in general. And I think that's really what we need. You know, just keep in mind that if this is all true, then we're in the middle of a propaganda war. 100%. This is an information war that we're in the middle of. Whether or not we're being used, we're at the forefront of it, however you want to look at it. If this is real, then there's people that want this out and people that don't want this out. And what that means is we have to be intelligent about how we put the information out. You know, I think I've been transparent about this. That's why I'm doing these streams, live streams, so people can see that I'm not in the middle of this whole thing going on. Because if I was me on the outside, I'd probably be like, wait, this guy's making this all up. Nope, this is just this crazy. It just really is. And so we need to make sure that the message goes out there with visuals that people understand. We are in the TikTok era. I'm not going to be on TikTok making those TikTok videos. But I am trying to increase the production value and make sure that the stuff that I put out there is better. I've started to edit videos now. So that's where you guys are getting these clips from. I'm like pulling them down there. So if you guys can help me with that and tell me like the timestamps of stuff that I should look at and pull, that helps me a lot in terms of getting stuff out there. I think you've seen how compelling some of these clips are. Like just even the one today was like, holy crap. Like I saw that and I'm like, okay, I'm downloading this. I'm cutting this because what is going on? He's talking about the Maldives, man. There's only one military base in the Maldives, guys. It's Diego Garcia. So at least the U.S. ones. So anyway, it's pretty wild of what's going on here. Hey, Ocean, do you have a quick comment? And then we're going to go to UFO Sarah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to all of the new faces that I've met tonight. There's quite a few new people, and I've added all of you. I appreciate your insight and experience and stories. I've learned a lot. So yeah, just thanks. That was all.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to thank everyone as well. I've learned so much and made a lot of notes, which I'm sure some other people have too. But I wanted to also say that I'm thankful and grateful for the time that you're giving me to say something and the time that you're giving to do the research on this project and your team. And that I just, as a researcher myself, it's inspiring, and also I respect it. I respect you a lot. And maybe if you wanted to spend 5 more minutes thinking about where this video came from, you can look at it from the perspective of who benefits from it, but I think and then you could probably branch off to like PSYOP, all of those things. But I think 5 minutes is all that really, should take, because that person isn't going to reveal themselves. But what you can take from it, and I think even from just being on the space tonight and hearing everything about the geometry and the artifacts and all of that, it points to someone, if anything, all of that is all gibberish. There's a clear, there's a path to take from here, and that's exciting, and that you're not alone. Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think that, man, the funny part is you guys look at me in terms of being this leader of this project, I think, in terms of MH370x, which I guess technically I am. I mean, I came up with that idea, but I'm just a passenger along for the ride like the rest of you guys. That's how I look at it myself. This isn't some elaborate ruse I've been playing on you guys, and I think that you know that, especially the people that have been watching, and that's part of the reason why I've been as transparent as possible, so that people can realize that that's not what's going on here. This is just a wild kind of experience and ride that we're on, and it's leading us to technology that I think a lot of us didn't know existed. So the fun part, I think, Sarah, is that we're learning the science behind it. We're not just looking at crazy videos. We're like actually figuring out, oh, this is how the science really works. And if this ends up being real, then we really are on the front lines of disclosure here, where we are getting this information out there for everybody else, the stuff that's really important. And this stuff will lead to the disclosure that everybody else is looking for as well. That there are crafts out there potentially that we don't understand, propulsion that we don't understand, and potentially even non-human intelligence that we don't understand. And that's why tomorrow we are going to talk about the EBO scientist post. Unless there's some major breaking update, there's another letter or something like that. But otherwise, we're going to go into the EBO scientist post that I promised tomorrow, because I think that there's other stuff that's out there that I think is being hidden, that's like just buried underneath the surface that people should be looking at. And EBO scientist was something that came out this last summer, where they were deleted in real time. And like the reason why you do that is like what Sarah mentioned, like what is there to benefit? Well, when you silence somebody that's potentially a leaker out there, that's something I want to be taking a look at. And I want to take another hard look at with you guys tomorrow. I'm not going to be making any definitive statements on it. I know it isn't quite the same as MH370x. Like the whole aliens aspect isn't really a huge aspect here, but there is a non-human aspect to this, guys. So I'm just going to keep doing stuff that I find is interesting. Weird, did you have any last comments before we close out tonight?
Yeah, man, just real quick. Thanks for your work. Appreciate you. In the vein of realizing we don't know what you don't know, kind of like with Randall Carlson, are you familiar with the term limited hangout? And then specifically Whitney Webb.
Whitney Webb. No, what's the connection to Whitney Webb?
She's deep in the an amazing researcher. She reminds me of you. I kind of was hoping you two would connect, and she could kind of give you some context to get deeper into finding some of the stuff, maybe specifically with the Sea Land guy, just anything specifically with deep research in the government. But then she also runs a thing called Unlimited Hangout. And I think some of the things you're running across with these counter narratives and just information that's out there is a limited hangout, including the videos for that matter. They could be 100% true with elements of fakery put in there, much like the exothermic event and the clouds and any of that stuff. Kind of like I said right when that debunk was happening, is there if they wanted to, if they really did this, if this was done by a government, they have the ability to do all of the fakery. And like it was a limited hangout and assaulted with bad info to make it pre-bunked so that they could debunk it later. Yeah. So just keep it up, man. You're doing great. Look into other people, and it's funny that you didn't know about Randall. It's cool, man. There's a lot of cool stuff happening.
I think a lot of people are
he's
surprised by that.
fresh in his world. He's our innocent genius here leading the team. I know we're wrapping it up. So
yeah, go for Mello.
Won't keep you too long, because I know you're tired. I just want to say, extend my gratitude to this community, and it's been so endlessly inspiring to me. How maybe you didn't start the fire, but you've harnessed it and you've shepherded it in a really honorable way based on my investigating the investigation. So I've been looking into you and what you've been doing, and it's been cool, the transparency. I really love the people who are committed to this and how it has turned into an ever positive thing based on my ethics in terms of collaboratively trying to reach the truth with more and more people and more and more with more and more expertise. We don't call people experts with the but with interests and different perspective and strengths, and and regardless of what the answer turns out to be, there is real. I've learned so much I went over my head because I'm not a scientist, but I'm trying to learn. And this is to me the best of what the internet has to offer in its true potential. So I think you guys are all just really beautiful, inspiring, good people who want to understand the nature of reality as I do. And it's cool how this process just keeps evolving. And I just want to thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thanks, Mello, man. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you guys who've been on this journey. I know Mello is one of the people who's been with us from the very beginning, some of the earliest spaces we ever did about this, and it's pretty wild to think about how far we've come. So, I think that's a good note where we can kind of close it down. So, just some last comments once again, go ahead, Thomas. Did you have something else you want to say real quick?
All right. I swear to God, just real quick. I put down in the comments, I actually got that ABO post before it got deleted, and I turned it into an AI video. So if you want to listen to it, AI transcript, I did it already. So you can just watch that video.
Awesome.
Damn, boy.
Sweet. Appreciate that, man. Yeah, and I've got the other transcript up as well. Some people did snap it up before it's gone. That's why tomorrow we're going to go over the whole thing, and we'll kind of explain why I think it has some credibility to it. And if there are any scientists in the chat tomorrow that are like biologists or genealogists or anything related to the relevant sciences, microbiologists, I'd be very interested to hear from them as well. And that's going to be a little bit of a different thing, right? Because we do here we're talking about advanced technology, and then we're going to be talking about the yin and the yang tomorrow of it, which is like the non-human intelligence aspect. Are there really beings visiting us? If so, is this potentially what their physiology is, or are they flying jellyfish? Not sure. It's going to be kind of interesting though. And then just to close out again, guys, I want to thank everybody at MH370X, everybody who's been following along. This really is just a crowdsourced investigation, and I've just kind of been the voice. So, thank you guys for being along here on this journey. We're going to close this space out here for tonight, and then we will be back tomorrow with another space about EBO scientist post. And if anything else comes up, I will let you guys know right away. If you are jonesing for more content, take a look at the stream from last night around AARO, where I go over the AARO stuff too, because I don't know, I think we should not prejudge the AARO. Yes, they didn't give us the answer we wanted in terms of disclosure and what's out there, but unless that guy was in on this elaborate thing and whatever's going on, then I'm pretty sure that was a real call with the AARO. I mean, I've got the guy's name and rank and everything like that. We can look them up if we have to, but they can be a resource for us because they do have the capability to look into some of this stuff. Like, we can find the stuff that's public, but we need somebody on the inside to find the stuff that's private to verify parts and aspects of the videos, or come back to us and tell us, no, guys, this is a giant psyop, or maybe it has been suggested, maybe this is a partial psyop, or maybe it's a total hoax. Maybe the videos are. I don't know, guys. At this point, I think we're all along for the ride. So thanks a lot for joining me on this journey. I appreciate all of you guys and hope you guys have a great night. Peace.
Have a good night, Ashton.
Okay, and everybody who is watching the stream, thank you guys very much tonight for hanging out with this and going through all this. I mean, this was a wild thing that happened today, man. Reality is, thanks Keemstar for jumping on, asking some questions. I know he's somebody that always keeps me grounded related to everything. Because the reality is you get to a part with some of this science and you start to learn, you start to not even realize what's real or not real anymore related to some of this stuff. You're like, if we can teleport a plane, then really everything's possible. And then you think about what could we do from an intelligence and disinformation standpoint? Like, you think about what the story was told there. Was that we knew about these guys were defecting in December, and we set up a 3-month elaborate plan to entrap them and capture them, or stop them in the last possible moment just to, flex to China? Man, that's a weird story, man. If we can do that, then I don't have a lot of chance of making it to, life expectancy, guys. So once again, just to close it out, yes, I'm a very happy person. I would never do anything to harm myself. I'm going to be very careful not to get hit by any cars crossing the street. And I'm just going to keep bringing you guys this story. And in the meantime, we are going to cover some other stuff that's just fun and interesting. So if that upsets anyone out there, I apologize. We are going to get to the bottom of this disclosure, catastrophic disclosure. We are going to get to the bottom of this science. We'll do whatever it takes, guys. So have a great night. Peace, everybody. It's been fun talking to you. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, post them in the YouTube comments or in my replies on this space. I'll try to take a look at them tonight or tomorrow morning when I wake up. If there's any questions you think I didn't answer or whatever, let me know. I want to make sure I'm as transparent as possible. Peace, everybody. Have a good night.